Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am here. Hello. How is your morning all doing? Hi, you guys. Oh, I need to turn on my camera. What about that? Set everything up except for that. Okay. Hi. Good morning. It is getting hot as fuck. Hi, holy shit! This is probably the earliest I've streamed since I think the fucking marathon that I did a couple of weeks ago, right? And I didn't. The funny part about it is the marathon I slept on stream, so that's the only reason why I was able to like stream so early. But normally I would be working around these hours. Uh, So today I just decided that I wanted to have like a couple of hours to like stream and do a little bit here and there, and then probably work in the afternoonish. Uh, so here's all fucked up right now. Look at this. All right, so I made some breakfast. So obviously I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of eating on stream. Today's delicious breakfast delivered to you by me. Usually I eat avocado with this, but just like some eggs and ham with a little bit of ketchup on it. Um, yes, I was able to get bananas. So I'll probably be making a smoothie later on. I don't have a lot of time today. I'm only gonna be streaming till probably about like midday, like probably 12 or 1, something like that. Because I do have to still put in a couple of hours into work. Obviously, I do still have to pay bills in the long run, so I can't take off too much time, sadly. But I think after I get off of the gym, I still might be able to do a kind of like late night stream with the boys, playing some games. Today was just kind of like me waking up, testing out more of like a more morning routine kind of thing. Um, and honestly, it didn't feel that bad. I got to sleep like sometime around like 1 or 1:30, something like that. I was up kind of like a little bit playing some I was playing some Magic with Henry. I decided to stay up playing a little bit of Magic. I know I shouldn't have played it. But I could have woken up so much earlier had I gone to bed before midnight. I probably would have been up probably like around like I want to say like 6, maybe earlier. Um, which sounds like a pretty decent idea in my opinion, because then I can start going to the gym soon. Oh hey, how's it going, Saint Just? Welcome to the stream. We're just starting up right now. But yeah, I think it'd be really fun to do kind of like more morning gym streams too. It'd be really fun. The only problem is finding a gym that kind of like allows me to do more like IRL streaming indoors, because obviously most gyms kind of like don't like it when you're streaming inside, but I mean, what you kind of ask for forgiveness, right? Not permission. But yeah. How's your morning going, Saint? All right. So there's a couple of things I wanted to get to while I'm eating. Obviously, I'm gonna do a little bit of a of like a watch thing. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I am craving learning something new. Oh, it's 5 p.m. here, but day was fine. Thanks. Oh man, 5 p.m. Where the heck are you right now? That's gotta be like across the world. Hey, but welcome, Germany. Hey, how's it going? How do you say hi in Germany or good morning? Oh, I know this. I know this. Hold on. My training has. Oh. There's the good morning song. Which one was it? Not singing in the rain. Oh wait, no, you know which one I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the Good Night song from oh, can't remember the name of it. It's been so long. It's been so long. Oop. Good morning in German. Oh, that's right. Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. Ah, okay, okay. But yeah. So I am in the mood to finally start getting back into my routines. It's been quite some time. Obviously, for a lot of you guys, I don't know how often you guys choose to learn a new. Oh, my chat is backwards. Hold on, let me flip that. Transform. There we go. There we are. What do you want to learn? Oh, interesting question. Thank you for asking. If you guys take a look right over here, I have been looking into MIT's open course stuff. Now, here's the interesting thing. There used to be a lot more available courses for MIT. Interestingly enough, I used to surf the university's website back in the day, like I think around 2015, 2018, something like that. They had so much more of a selection of courses back in the day. I have to look for it because I don't know if I remember finding it on Tumblr a long time ago. But it was a link to a specific website. It wasn't a website that is like I think MIT official or anything like that. I'm not too sure. I'm thinking it might have been this one right here, the open learning MIT one, which was pretty cool. You can now create your own courses, download PDFs, tech books, whatever, throw it in a notebook, LM, and press the video button. Oh, yeah, I was looking at their website right now for that. Interestingly enough, so now they have this like weird kind of like website, the Open Courseware, right? And they also have this talk radio show, a podcast about inspired teaching at MIT, which was kind of interesting. I haven't looked into this at all, but when you click into like specific courses, like let's say ethics for engineers, artificial intelligence, and stuff like that, as you were saying, now you can download courses, which is like downloading basically note materials and stuff like that, and it comes with recordings and stuff of lectures, which I found really interesting. The thing about this is that even though it is free on their website, I'm still very unsure on if it's okay to stream on Twitch and stuff like that. If it's okay to utilize this, which I don't think it should be an issue, right? If it's already readily available, and I'm kind of like you know and I'm kind of like spreading the education a bit. It shouldn't be that much of an issue. I'm not talking about MIT specifically, just Google's AI. You can give it any source and create educational videos, etc. Oh, yes. I've heard about this. Okay. So that's another thing. Having AI create like a whole educational program for you would be really interesting. I heard LinkedIn is pretty good too. LinkedIn has a really good certificate program for specific things, which I found kind of interesting. But the whole idea is I want to spend the second half of summer learning a new skill before I have to get back into my my basically educational schedule, which is going to be probably starting around August or September, something like that, when once classes start again. So I want to try and learn something. Uh, Not only that, I also want to try and like start building something as well, like some kind of project. Whether that be kind of like smaller end or kind of bigger, I'm still quite unsure. But from what I've been kind of like brainstorming right now, it either has to do with building something for this desk specifically. I want to build something where buy kind of multiple cameras and I can have like multiple camera angles for the stream. So I want to try and set that up, maybe build like an entire like rig system for this, which I think would be phenomenal. From what I've been seeing, there was this cool thing I saw on somebody's stream a while back. I think I was doing it on stream where like I was going to like different DJ setups or like their different streams, and I saw one specific streamer had this one camera that like was mounted and was like on kind of like a dolly system, and I found that so cool. I really want to do research to find out how the hell she did that. But like the camera actually had kind of like this dynamic movement to it, which I found really really awesome. It's probably like super simplistic programming to it also. Uh if not probably something that's like readily available online. I probably just find that really easily. But I think it'd be really really sick to set something like that up. And if not that, I would love to have something where maybe the chat can control like here's a really kind of like funny thing I had in mind. So you know how like some streamers have like this donation option where like they can interact with the in-game things, like say somebody's playing like Fortnite or something like that. They can have like a donation thing where um they have to drop all their guns, or they have to play with their pistols, or they have to do like specific tasks and stuff like that. I had this really fun idea where like the chat could like donate to like basically control the monitor like and move it around and stuff like that, which I thought would be really really funny. Uh Other than that, I don't know, that's kind of like just something I'm kind of brainstorming. The idea of like having to like work figure out the cable system and how that's gonna like work in this like moving kind of rig thing would be really really annoying though. Um, but other than that, I think it'd be funny as fuck. Like if like the chat can control like how close the monitor actually is to me, or like how far away it is, or like it could actually like move it around the entire desk in some way. So I'm like constantly having to like move around. I think it'd be funny, but at least in short term. I don't know if like long term it would be something I want to keep around, but I think it'd be fun. But yeah. As you can see, I'm also really really into like astrology and stuff like that. I fell in love with astrology a couple of years ago when I took a couple courses for it. But uh one of my favorite theoretical physicists is Michio Kaku. Now a lot of people he's kind of like it's really 50-50 when you talk to theoretical physicists, because it's such a like volatile it's such a volatile kind of industry, right? Like people respect the big names of theoretical physicists, but it's like there's always kind of like a conflict with a lot of the big heads, you know? uh because obviously everything is very theoretical, so everybody's trying to prove each other wrong all the fucking time. So Michio Kaku is one of these guys that like there's a lot of theoretical physicists, even a lot of kind of just like practical scientists that um don't necessarily agree with a lot of his theories and stuff like that, which I mean it's okay, because like when it comes to theoretical physicists or uh these kind of theories, like they're not entirely proven all quite yet. It's like they kind of want you to prove them wrong in some way. But yeah, I've been trying to get caught up on a lot of stuff that's been happening around this time. So I like to kind of like look into like big thing. I'm looking for like specific YouTubes that I can log into on this account, even though I'm not signed in right now. But I have a regular YouTube that I sign into that's specifically just for streaming, which I use for the Rise and Falls on Sundays. But I want to try adding only YouTubes that I'm gonna be kind of like checking out weekly and stuff like that. If it's something that I'm not gonna be like watching on stream, I'm probably not going to be following it on that account. But I do have a separate account if you guys do want to check that out. Down below in the bio, do have the links to both my most of my social media, so like Twitter, YouTube, and stuff like that. I post up all my old VODs on there if you want to check those out. All right, but yeah. There's one thing in particular that I really, really want to check out though. So there was something regarding this right here. So they finally found out what's inside a black hole. Now, I don't really understand this and how they really came to this conclusion, cuz like unless you're utilizing some kind of like obviously they always say mathematics is the thing that they're going to kind of like utilize in the long run for proving a lot of things. If you like Michio Kaku, you probably like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes, I do. So there's Neil deGrasse Tyson actually has that podcast, and I always constantly see a lot of his videos on TikTok and stuff like that. So he's got like a lot of really interesting takes. Again, another controversial figure. You know, this is a guy that's put in a lot of time and a lot of work into theoretical physics and stuff like that. But a lot of people in the industry are kind of like 50-50. Uh, but I think he's generally a pretty chill dude. Why AI is overrated? 7 days ago. Ooh, this would actually be a pretty interesting conversation. Okay. I want to check this out. I want to hear what a lot of like the higher end kind. Oh, Star Talk. That's what I was thinking of. But I want to know what like a lot of like the leading kind of like minds think of AI at the moment. Oh yeah. Sorry, I my Nightbot refrains from posting links, but I could check this out. Like the interactions with Kurzweil. All right, let me check this out real quick. Connecting your brain to Wi-Fi. Ooh, wants to put nanobots in our bloodstream. All right, let me check this out. This will be interesting. So I can probably watch this while I'm eating and stuff like that. All right, how long is this? 53 minutes. All right, let me rewind a little bit. All right.
I mean, I actually have 5 patents where you can actually be with somebody and embrace them and feel like you're with them in three
Let's check
dimensional
this out.
space.
Ray, I'm not having a computer hug me. I don't know what you're cooking up your sleeve there, but no, I'm not getting warm and cozy with arms sticking out of my laptop.
I don't know. I think we're getting
This
close
is
to that.
Star Talk. I'm your host, Neil.
I don't know if you guys actually heard about this, but they just recently started utilizing um robots and AI for old people homes. So one of the things with the respite and kind of like caretaker industry is that there's a huge decline in it right now. There's not a lot of people that want to do it. They don't want to take care of the elderly and stuff like that. So they're suffering a huge loss of people working in that industry. And now you're seeing a lot of it kind of like you're seeing the beginning of AI coming in and taking over a lot of those spaces. It's one of the earlier industries that it's occurring in. Let me see if YouTube has something posted to AI robot homes. I forgot what the name of it was though. So yeah, it's very similar to this. Nursing home using patients with dementia. Yeah, this is another one. So it's robots like these that are starting to be introduced into it. And kind of like old people are now like the new test subjects for this.
Am I boring you? You're sleepy.
102-year-old Charlotte England has an audience of robots keeping her company.
I'm going to make Nanaimo bars.
Social robots, in fact. Meet Kiwi and Mango. They're at the center of a study examining whether artificial intelligence can be used to help care for older people. They're a big hit with residents here. They say the pandemic left many seniors feeling isolated.
How long ago was this?
To help.
This was 1 year ago. Holy
I don't
shit.
see my children that often, but I mean, I could play with him all morning.
It's fun company, you know, kind of. You don't have to feed them, you don't have to clean them, you don't have to take them for a walk. Perfect.
The AI
It's like-
companion.
Dude, this is like when Tamagotchis first came out. Like, we're on the cusp of like Tamagotchis becoming a very, very realistic thing, you know? Or you remember, oh, what were those robot dogs that flipped? No, toy. But they were like back from the 90s. These things.
When Mom got
These
me a
things.
puppy,
Oh my
Dad-
god.
A puppy? Who's gonna walk him?
You remember when these came out?
Who's gonna
Oh
train him?
my god.
Technological tricks.
Techno, the robotic puppy. He's light activated, touch activated,
Come on, Techno.
and voice
Come on, boy.
activated.
Come on.
The more you teach him, the smarter he gets. Just like a real puppy.
Hey, check out Techno's website. We can teach him more high-tech tricks.
Techno, the robot.
Full screen. But the interesting thing about this is that I think that this is a very real peek into the future of AI. Now, a lot of people have issues with AI in general as like a whole, right? I guess it will be normal to have 1 or 2 AI driven robots living with you. Yes. I mean, you're saying 1 or 2, but I think by the end of the decade we're going to be living with several AI in one household at any given moment. Think about it. You have your smartphone. We have smart houses that are on the rise right now. There's more than likely going to be at minimum 1 to 2 AIs controlling those houses, for security, for basic utilities, for your TV. I mean, oh my god, don't even get me started with AI being utilized by other companies as well. So like, then you're gonna have AI being utilized by like your internet providers. Or you're probably gonna have them being utilized by basically every major industry. Like, I mean, Google's gonna be using it at that point. And then AI will probably end up being utilized for what else could they? I don't know. Like, I mean, probably for your cars. It's insane the like level that AI is going to be utilized in just basic social settings from here on out. Human like robots. Yeah. It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. As far as like human robots though, I think we're quite a long ways away from that. I think what you'll probably see more likely is something like this, like a pet, you know? Now a lot of people are against the idea of AI that but I think the real issue is that people hate the idea of like an AI that somebody else has already like brought up and grown, kind of like grown in a laboratory in some ways. They have issues with like it collecting information. The thing that I think AI is going to start taking off in is when they start utilizing it on like younger audiences, right? So rather than having this AI that's basically all seeing, it basically oversees everybody all at once. What I can see happening is something more similar to like Mass Effect Andromeda. So in Mass Effect Andromeda, they have an AI system in that. So so the AI system in Mass Effect is actually pretty cool. So it has such interesting interactions in this too. Sam and Coffee.
The coffee machine Mom got for Dad. He was so busy designing you. Needed the caffeine.
I did not realize I owed my existence to a bean.
And now you know what humility feels like.
So this is the interesting thing about this level of AI, or this kind of AI. In this game, it's a system that basically its entire system got wiped out. So it's kind of like learning all over again, through the point of view of your main character, who, as you're traveling, it's learning new things. Which I still feel like this game could have added like a pragmatic scale to it, so that like if you taught it the wrong things, it could have turned out to be like an evil AI in some way, which I think would have been way cooler. But um, as you play this game, it basically learns more and more and starts asking you more deeper questions and very existential questions about itself and like its conception and stuff like that, which I found really really interesting. But I think that this is kind of like a very close tie-in with like in the future, more likely when you're born, you will probably be assigned an AI at birth, kind of thing. Um because I have a feeling that when you create one AI that oversees the functions of everything as a whole, I think AI itself can become very power hungry. It can become very corrupted. Um, w- the um, the show Lazarus, if you the anime, if you guys have seen that, they talk about it a little bit. You know, about this AI system that basically tries to become a god, and in becoming a god, it basically states that, well, God has the power to kill and destroy its followers, so why should I not? And I feel like that it, you know, that is like the that's the prophecy of creating an AI system like this in the long run. Now, if you created an AI and every single person on the earth had their own individualized AI system, that'd be a whole different question, right? So, like at birth, you're assigned an AI, and as you're growing up, this AI learns from you, and how it turns out is very dependent on your habits and how you're raised and how much of a educational system you get. Like it could probably it could be recommended and monitored, like maybe the basic necessities as to how like how long study time should be for a kid, what kind of subjects they should be studying and stuff like that. It can recommend certain things, but like in the long run, it's the human that is shaping the AI rather than the AI that's shaping the human. And I think that this can create a lot of variety within the systems as well. You know, it would be help it to become a lot more human in some ways. But I think we're decades and decades, probably 1 decade away from that kind of being a reality. I don't remember where I came up with that idea though. The idea of like a personalized AI system. I know it was in some story. It has to have been in like a TV show or like an anime or like a movie that I watched before. Uh, but the idea of like a closed off system for each individual would be very very smart. Um, because then people wouldn't worry so much about like privacy issues. There wouldn't be so much of that kind of like villainization of like an AI kind of overseeing your entire your entire life. Um, I think one thing that we'd have to definitely be worried about is people falling in love with their AIs though. It'd be like that Futurama episode with AIs and how Fry fell in love with the robot and stuff like that. But other than that, like I think it should be it'd be more comparable to like a baby
When Mom got me a puppy, Dad.
raising a puppy in this way, you know? like an AI that is more of like a companion, something that's traveling with you, it's learning with you, it is uh sounds like a symbiotic relationship. I like, yes, yes, it's very, very, very similar to that. Um and I think it's like the, what do they call it? It's gonna be the uh oh god, I'm blanking so hard on the word right now. I'm thinking like 1,000 miles an hour right now. This is what happens when you get me yapping about a subject like this. But it's the singularity. It's the singularity effect, where a lot of people are kind of trying to predict what the next level of evolution is going to take place for humans. And a lot of people think it's something very internal, right? With like the brain specifically, because obviously, as we're if we look at how humans have evolved through the many, 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 many years we've been on Earth, the bigger our brains have become, the more our body has changed and been shaped in different ways, uh, and how our civilizations have changed as well in a lot of ways. Um, but a lot of people fail to realize how big of a they fail to realize how big of an impact technology is going to have on the evolution of the human as well. Like, I think Doctor Who kind of talks about this a little bit in some of their earlier episodes as well. I don't remember if it was David Tennant or Eccleston's Doctor, but they're constantly talking about like the merging of humans and uh, basically robotic parts becoming kind of like symbiotic in some way. And there's always kind of like that back and forth on like if humans were to ever transition into becoming kind of like more tech, um, kind of like they were more kind of like mixed in with technologies, if the robot or the AI systems would take over the parts of the human brain in many ways, and if it's possible to have a symbiotic relationship in that way with an AI, if you're kind of completely merged together. Now, in the case of like an AI system that's like, you know, placed in a companion like a dog or some kind of like the oh, now I know what it reminds me of. I was talking about this last night with my friend too, because he said he wanted to play this. Oh my god, personalized AI systems reminds me of Mega Man Battle Network so much. Oh my god. It reminds me of Mega Man Battle Network so much. So everybody has like these personalized kind of AI systems, right? And like even you're a kid. So the premise is you're a kid that's in school, and everybody in your school has their own personalized AI that they're learning with the child, and the child utilizes them for like different functions and stuff like that. But very, very, very similar. Since you mentioned singularity, Kurzweil made this term tech singularity popular. He wrote books about it. Oh, singularity's been around for many, many years. The idea of singularity and stuff like that, I think, was first conceptualized, I think, in like the early 70s or 80s or something like that. And that was kind of like around the time that like a lot of scientists were seeing like the like accelerated growth of technology at its time. I mean, back in the 80s, even people realized how fast computers were moving. You know, computers were changing almost every couple of years. The and once you got into like the 90s, technology was just like completely off the rails. The the speed at which technology advanced in the 90s and early 2000s is incredible, and is probably going to end up being studied probably in the next couple of years as one of the biggest booms. um I think it's going to be one of the biggest tech booms of the century. I think we're still At least at the time. I think in the next couple of years we might end up breaking that record, and it's still kind of going at this point too. Because like, think about it. In the early '90s, we had Game Boys, we had iPods, we had Zunes, we had the internet was barely taking off. I mean, people in the early '90s thought Y2K was gonna happen when the ball dropped at 2000. Yeah, like that's the funny part about it. That's how primitive we were at that time. And now we're 20 years later, the the level of technology advancement that's happened between now and then is incredible. Incredible. I mean, you could probably compare it to like the Industrial Revolution, but this tech revolution that we're still living in at this moment is crazy. And the fact that nobody's really talking about this at this time or doing any kind of like real study or research on in a lot of ways is kind of baffling. It's really baffling that people haven't put more spotlight onto it. But yeah, AI systems utilized. This is exactly the kind of like system that I'm thinking of. And the funny part about it is we'll probably end up coming to this like visualization of AI where like, okay, so this is like their personalized AI or program that they're utilizing to combat a virus, right? And so this is kind of like a battlefield, and like the viruses are visualized as like monsters or like little cute little things, you know. But this is kind of like what our future is kind of like heading down towards, right? Where in the near future, kids could end up utilizing these AI systems as like a form of entertainment rather than like video games. You could see them utilizing them as like kind of like games in many ways, right? They're not only going to learn from their AI systems, they'll use them as like an entertainment device as well, or like kind of like an avatar, a digital avatar, to do things in the digital world that they aren't able to do in like their regular worlds, right? So Mega Man Battle Network is a very clear example of this. There's also another one. Um what is the name of it? I think it was called Metabots. Is this the one? Yes, Metabots. So Metabots is another thing with AIs that I kind of see happening in the near future as well. We might not have it to the extent of like these giant robots that can like literally like like attack anything, because I feel like that's going to be a lot more dangerous. I think like Mega Man Battle Network's a lot more likely, where like you're gonna have to like plug into like a digital network and then you're gonna like battle almost like it's Pokemon. But this is still a very cool concept. The idea of like somebody being able to put together from parts like a robot and then battle it out on like a battlefield like this is really really cool. You could see a lot of like underground kind of fight networks starting up with this in the early years of like AI once it advances a little bit more. This is a very 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 likely thing. I mean, you already see it because they already have Robot Wars, which is kind of like very very close to this. It's not to like the level of extent that this is quite yet, but like I think Metabots is a very very likely thing in probably like the next probably 10 to 15 years. Now, will they be this size? No. I don't think the robots are ever going to reach this level of like um lethality. Flamethrowers on the robots, like fucking energy beams. But what I can see is this. On the early Game Boy, there used to be a fighting game called Power Quest. Amazing game. Amazing game. Now, this was such a great game. It was one of my favorites. I played this all the time, everywhere I went. Like, I played this so much that there were blisters that would appear or I would get so many blisters on my thumb from like trying to use the Game Boy fucking thumb pads, because like obviously we didn't have joysticks back then. Again, another technological revolution that occurred within my lifetime was the transition between a D-pad to like a joystick, which was a phenomenal. Like, you have no idea. Kids do not understand the level of fucking blisters that people got playing fighting games back then, using a D-pad. Awful, awful. But like in this game, these robots are more the size of like a Gundam, right? These robots are built in the shops that they buy the parts in are kind of more of like Gundam model kit kind of things. But like this is much more likely that I can see. Now, obviously, they won't have like fucking abilities like this, psiotic abilities, but I could see little toys, like little Gundam toys, being sold that like maybe your AI can like take over and you could use it almost like a fighting kind of game. And kids would probably get a kick out of this, right? Like Gundam fans would love the shit out of this kind of stuff. The FGC would go crazy for this kind of stuff too. But yeah, like these toys are like no bigger than the size of like a little tiny Gundam, which I found so fun. Now I could see this being a very, very likely future for sure when it comes to like AI systems and stuff.
Finally tonight, what started as one nursing home's high-tech solution. Here's CBS's Omar Villafranca.
83-year-old Jill Breckenridge has a new friend at her Minnesota nursing home.
Hi, Pepper.
It's not a person.
It's great to see you.
It's Pepper, a special robot that can talk.
Pepper.
You are having a wonderful day.
Pepper reminds me so much of that Star Wars robot. It reminds me so much of the nurse robot. Oh man, where is it? God, there's so many AI Star Wars stuff that's like out now. Oh my god, there's so much AI generated shit on YouTube now. It's crazy. And it's only like a split second too. These things. Oh, that is loud.
Medically, she's completely healthy. For reasons we can't explain, we are losing her.
She's dying.
We don't know why. She has lost the will to live.
We're so close to this becoming a fucking reality. Obviously not the like floating and levitating and shit. Although, who knows? In the next 10 years, I mean, we might end up figuring out some kind of like levitational system. The real question is, if humans do figure out levitating, is it gonna be specifically only is it gonna be reliant on being on Earth, right? Levitating cars and stuff like that, are they only gonna be able to be utilized on Earth because of its magnetic field, or is it gonna be utilizing some kind of like magnetic system that's reliant on the Earth and stuff like that? Is it going to be able to levitate in space if it ever does, if we ever do develop some kind of like space travel? Is it going to be able to levitate on other planets that have like a different magnetosphere and stuff like that? So these are all questions that like I think AI is probably going to end up being used to like figure out. Honestly, I think it unless within the next like 5 to 10 years there's a super human genius human that's going to be born, right? It like the level of like Einstein times 1,000 kind of thing. If there is a human that's born that intelligent that it can beat an AI system, that would be incredible. Think about that, because humans technically I think only utilize somewhere between 12 to 15%. And that's like I would say probably 90% of society probably doesn't utilize that full 15%. But like think about that. If humans had access to 100% of their brain, like I kind of wonder if they'd be able to beat out an AI system, right? It's a question I always wonder. Like, and not only that, but if you utilize 100% of your brain, like how tired would your body get after, like it's like when you go to the gym and like you overexert a muscle, right? And you're sore for like weeks. If a human were to do that, they'd have to be so physically fit. Like they'd utilize their brain so much that they'd probably be so physically fit from just like the the level of like stress that they'd be placing on their muscles and nervous system and stuff like that. Cause like that'd be insane level of thinking, right? I don't know. Cause I mean, esports professionals like lose weight just playing video games, and they're probably like firing neurons at like fast speeds as well. Like imagine, I wonder if like chess players, like some of the fastest chess players, or like people that solve Rubik's cubes and stuff like that, burn calories while they're doing it too, just like by thinking. That's the crazy part about it. But yeah, these robots are fucking crazy, man.
To keep them active.
All right, but let's take a look at this.
DeGrasse Tyson, your personal astrophysicist. And today, we're going to tackle a subject that's on everybody's mind at some point in their life. And for some people, it's on their minds all the time. And it has to do with longevity, your health, longevity, and especially immortality. And what
this was
any of
2
that has
years
to
ago
do with technology,
2023,
and the pace that technology has been unfolding, not only over the past century, but especially over the past decades. And there's one person who comes to mind as a world expert on this, who's probably done more thinking on these topics than anyone else ever born. Possibly not whoever will be born, but certainly up until this moment. And there's none other than Ray Kurzweil. Ray, welcome to Star Talk.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to see you again.
Yes, thank you. This is not our first rodeo together. I've interviewed you before. You gotten into such fascinating research topics throughout your life. You're an author, you're an inventor, you're a futurist, and you have an uncannily accurate track record for making predictions. Even predictions like we don't want to be true, but they are. And you know this, right? So that makes it kind of awkward having conversations with you about this. You're also the co-founder of the Singularity Group. That's a topic we'll get into a little later. But
this guy might be who I was thinking of when we were mentioning Singularity too. If he wrote this book in 2005, this might be the guy that I was thinking of that created the concept for it. I mean, Singularity has been around for even longer than that, but this is when like it got a lot of recognition within like a lot of educational circles and stuff like that. Because before the idea of singularity with like robot and AI was a thing that was only dreamed about in like fantasies and sci-fi novels, like from like the early like 70s and 80s kind of thing. So like this was like a concept during the early 2000s, was like that was the height of like tech boom and stuff.
Some of that derives from you had a book back in 2005, The Singularity is Near, and you haven't stopped thinking about it since
2005.
And
yeah.
So
that was actually the book that I wrote, that I read when I was in
forever?
middle school, I think.
Well, I can't go on your show and say I've done it. I've lived forever. Because
you're actually 1,000 years old, right?
But we're going to achieve something called longevity escape velocity. So, I mean, right now, when you go forward a year, you lose part of that year. We pick up technologies that will extend us, but not a full year. So we're actually losing time. Progress is exponential, keeps getting faster, and we'll get to a point where we'll make so much progress. And when you go forward a year, your longevity will go forward a year or even more. And if you're actually in touch with the technology, I believe we'll get there by 2029.
We're
So
On
so
October
close.
12th, at 9
Oh
a.m.
my god.
That's
No,
awfully
December
specific, dude.
December 30th.
That is so scary to think about. I was just saying within the next 5 to 10 years, right? Within the next 5 to 10 years, it's so true. 2029 is so close. I don't think it's going to be the level that he's thinking of right now, but we're going to start seeing the conception of it in 2029 for sure. 2029, they're going to start releasing AI systems that you probably never thought would ever exist. 2029, guaranteed. They're already starting to implement it for like creative stuff. For Google's already placing initiatives into like making it like a thing within its infrastructure as well. 4 years is a long time, fellas. 4 years of AI learning. Within those 4 years, you're gonna see huge tech jumps.
First.
But just to clarify, so we're on the same page. So the year I was born, there's a certain life expectancy that the medical community would have for me the year I was born, and the year I died.
So about longevity, I can give you another video later. All right.
Over those decades, medicines and technologies and understandings have improved, so that I'm living longer than they previously had predicted for me.
And the progress.
Dude, oh my god. How is this gonna affect like the economy, right? AI systems are gonna create a very smart individual that can no longer be taken advantage of by corporations, specifically like the medical industry, the financial industries, who benefited off of the uneducated for years, right? Like, they would constantly make money off of people that didn't know how to navigate the financial system, or how loans, banks and stuff like that work, or how opening up a business and then getting around taxes and stuff like that, or how a lot of business people utilize creating a business or an LLC to get around paying excessive taxes is like a thing. Now people with AI systems are going to know all these secrets. They're going to know the ins and outs on how to like save money and not get taken advantage of in many ways, especially with the medical industry. Like an industry that's benefited from keeping people sick and like selling them drugs and pills to try and like alleviate their symptoms, but like not actually cure them, is like these businesses are probably going to go out with the emergence of AI, because AI, obviously, if you ask it the question like, oh, what is the most efficient or most uh optimal thing that I can do to heal myself from this thing, obviously AI is going to tell them the exact answer on like how to fix themselves. um Wow, it's crazy to think about. There might be a lot of doctors that might end up getting in trouble, like uh, in the long run. There'll probably be a lot of people losing their jobs if people are gonna like basically WebMD their entire like health issues to like an AI system. That's crazy to think about, though. Hmm. But again, this is where like an individual AI would come in handy, right? Because if you have a personalized AI that's keeping track of all your vital signs, keeping track of your entire body, that personalized AI can communicate with like a doctor's AI, right? And they'd be able to like, the AI systems would be able to pass information and cooperate in many ways to basically heal the patient or do the best with what they can do at that time. But insurance companies are gonna fucking go crazy. Like, you think the passing of information right now is quick? I think with AI, the level of like information being passed around is going to be nuts, right? Automation plus immortality could lead to a post-labor economy. Um, what it could end up leading to is a universal income being forced onto the government. Uh, I mean, you already see a lot of politicians talking about this, right? I think the other day I follow a couple of politicians, um, but there's one who was known for being like a mathematician a while ago. Be right back, phone. All right, thanks for popping in, Saint. But it's interesting to think about that. The idea of like a universal income is very, very much likely. So, in the near future, what we could end up seeing is rather than people having jobs, the government is basically gonna be forced to like send people a check every month for a universal income just to afford basic necessities because jobs are not going to be readily available for anybody anymore. It's going to be so difficult to get into the workforce that now there's going to have to be a lot of um need my camera off. But yeah, I think a universal income is very much likely on the rise. I think it's going to be for sure.
Is exponential. So we'll get to a point where the progress is so fast that it will keep up with time going by. So when a year goes by, your longevity will actually improve by a year or even more than a year, particularly if you're in touch with the technology.
And I love the phrase escape velocity. So at that point, everyone born at that point onward will basically live forever. This is what you're saying.
Escape velocity.
Well, not necessarily. Let's say you're a 10-year-old and they calculate your longevity is many, many decades. You could die, the next day. So,
well, dying a natural death, of course. We're not talking about, drowning or falling off a ladder, right? So,
well, things are
even
somewhat
then,
unpredictable.
though,
so even
would AI systems be able to predict, like a natural death cause, like in your genetics? Like, if you're assigned an AI at birth and stuff like that, would they be able to utilize the genetic DNA code of like your parents to basically give you like a percentage system of like how likely you are to die of like certain things, right? I don't know. That'd be so interesting to think about because like I think even now the processing of like DNA code is so meticulous that like it's probably only gonna be able to be done by like an AI system.
if
But
you
like,
have a longevity that's
can you imagine knowing ahead of time that like you're like 80% prone to being diabetic or like you probably have high blood pressure or you know about all these like health problems ahead of time as a child, and like your AI system is going to be able to monitor these things so that you become a lot healthier in your later years. Really strange to think about.
goes out, it's not a guarantee.
That's probably what they think
But we
about
will actually
like
be
longevity
able to,
wise.
as we go further out, we'll actually be able to register.
Oh my god, and think about that. Like with AI with AI in the mix, like how much better would parents turn out? Because there's so many people. I don't know how it is around the world, but like particularly in the United States, there's a huge issue of like parents not doing like therapy and stuff like that and having kind of like the stigma about like doing any of that sort of thing to get help mentally. But like with AI systems, I think that it could bypass that quite a bit and it could be utilized quite a bit to uh, kind of mentor and shadow a lot of these situations, and it could end up creating like far better like parent to um parent to child kind of like relationships quite a bit.
What our brains are doing, because we're going to actually merge with technology, and that's going to keep track of what we're thinking. And anything that's digital is backed up. So ultimately, we'll be able to recreate ourselves.
Well, let's get to that in a minute. Wait, hold.
Oh my, I didn't even think about that. The personalized AI systems could literally be used to like create a complete copy of somebody. If you're assigned an AI from birth and it knew every memory and detail about you, it could literally create a digital copy of yourself. And it'd be no different from creating like a clone.
Put a pin in that just for a quick second. If the day we reach escape velocity, would we have done so purely by advances in medicines and human physiology?
Well, there are different stages. When we get out to the 2040s, everything that we're thinking will be backed up. And that's not so amazing. I mean, this is backed up. If I throw this into the river and it washes away, I can recreate it because it's all backed up.
Okay, I'll get it right now.
And we haven't backed up our brains, but ultimately we'll do that because that's the whole story, but we'll be able to back up what we're thinking and really recreate ourselves.
But is that's not what you mean when you talk about adding a year per year, is it?
That's a different story. That's actually understanding our organs and so on.
No, I get that. So I just want to just put that to rest.
I'll give you an example. This just happened. I've had diabetes for 40 years. I've kept it controlled. I have this thing here, which actually measures my glucose. I'm going to get another one, slightly bigger, but actually very small, that actually has insulin and can put it into my bloodstream. So it's basically an artificial pancreas. So if I suddenly eat a lot of sugar, it'll detect that and release more insulin. If I haven't eaten anything for a while, it won't release insulin. It'll be just like your pancreas.
So it's a pancreas patch. That's great. Right? Yeah. Okay.
But it's actually replacing your organs.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can do that with all of your organs, and ultimately we'll be able to do that. And
oh man, synthetic organs is another market that like a lot of people don't necessarily talk about. So there is this thing that's popping up where it is like grown in it's organs that are like grown in a laboratory kind of thing. Oops. So they're man-made essentially. And these organs are bioengineered in a way. I don't know if they're technically healthy. Hey, welcome back, Saint. I don't know if they're healthy, or like how viable a lot of these things are. But like the idea of like this being mixed up with like tech in the near future is actually very, very likely, right? So you might see some stuff like this where it's like it has like microchips and stuff like that built into them to monitor the actual organ. You might have one that's like completely machine operated or like half machine. Man, this is a really interesting concept though. I've seen a lot more of like this where like it looks more like organic material altogether. But like how would you monitor that, right? How would you know if like the organ stabilizes with the rest of the body well?
These things are very reliable and much safer than your real organs. So when we get to the 2030s, we'll be actually supplementing our organs and redoing them.
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
I think so too.
From the biomedical community saying, we have a cure for diabetes. So you don't need to replace your pancreas with a patch. Your pancreas works perfectly. Or any other failure of your organs, if we get into the genome and know what the failure mode is.
I mean,
The real problem isn't that this technology is going to be created, this biotechnology is going to be created in any way. It's not. It's going to be heavily monetized. It's going to be so heavily monetized. Only it's not going to be accessible to the lower income individuals at all. This level of technology it's going to be like cyberpunk, where it's going to be like the higher end ritzy people are going to have like the really really nice technology, and like the lower end is going to have like the rusty used old bucket kind of like older model kind of stuff. That's how it's going to end up being. Very much so.
And there's different ways of overcoming problems with your organs. I mean, one is to replace it, another is to fix it. Fixing your organs is not perfect either, but we'll actually have a way of overcoming different issues that we have with our body, because our bodies are definitely not perfect. And actually, we can do a better job than your real pancreas with this artificial pancreas.
With artificial intelligence, what they're going to end up doing is just like being able to take a blood sample, completely recode your entire DNA sequence, and then generate a new organ that fits perfectly well in your body. That is more than likely what it is going to end up happening. And it's kind of already starting to happen.
So
anyway, that's just an example of being able to basically overcome problems with your organs.
All right, so we start swapping it out and we upload your brain. So now there's like a box on the table. All right, that's your brain.
Well, uploading your brain is a little bit later. But yes, we'll be able to. I mean, what we're going to first do is connect our parts of our brain where we do our thinking to the cloud, just the way this does it. I mean, you can actually use this without being connected to the cloud.
But it's pretty, you mean your smartphone? Yes,
my smartphone. But it's pretty useless because it doesn't know very much. So for this to really be effective, it has to connect to the cloud. But our brain is not connected to the cloud. So that's going to happen in the 2030s. And we will then be able to, I mean, this really amplifies our brain. But
oh my god, that's so crazy to think about. This was 2 years ago. This was 2 years ago. You want to know why that's so scary? So a couple years ago, I think this was around the time of like the pandemic and stuff like that. They did this with an AI. I don't remember if it was AI or if this was just some kind of like scientific research, but they took some people and they through their sleep they were actually able to utilize their brain activity and create imagery utilizing AI from that brain activity. And it was around the time of the pandemic, so around like 2020, 2022, something around that time. It's crazy to think about, though. It's crazy to think about that this was like this blurred image essentially is like the closest that we're coming to it. I don't know if this is real or not. This isn't the footage that I saw when about the scientific research that they did, but this is kind of very similar to like what it looked like, where it was very very close to being able to visualize a dream that somebody had. And they were talking about the idea of like memories and how close that AI was able to basically analyze like memories that people kind of like would forget or be traumatized from and stuff like that. And like they'd be able to use the dreams to basically read people's minds in some ways. That's a scary
I have
thought.
to have it. I put it down and I don't have it handy. I can't use it.
Yeah, but Ray, I'm not giving you a scalpel to go into my brain and put electrodes if I have just as good access to the cloud by holding a smartphone and touching it with my thumbs.
Well, I mean, that is a point, but but you don't have to actually go in with a scalpel. I mean, we'll send nanobots through the bloodstream.
Oh, I feel much better about that now.
Well, I mean, if I were to describe how everybody has this phone and it actually amplifies our mind, 20 years ago, people, in fact, which I did do, and people thought that was crazy. And now everybody has this.
Everybody's got
a
it.
speech and 500 people there, and I said, who does not have their smartphone handy? And nobody raised their hand.
Right.
Like everybody has this. That wasn't true 5 years
That's
ago.
so true.
It definitely wasn't true 10 years ago. So people get used to things.
I'm telling you,
It's
10
much
years
better to
ago,
actually
think
have
about
it in
that.
your brain.
10
You have it
years.
instantly.
I feel so old.
With your phone, typing on it is awkward. This will be much better.
So you'd be carrying Wi-Fi antennas inside your head somehow.
Right. I mean, we'll make that more reliable than it is now.
Okay. So what happens if you're walking around and then you hit a...
Oh my god, this reminds me so much of Mass Effect Andromeda. Or no. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Horizon Zero Dawn. It reminds me a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn. I forget what the little chip thing is. I didn't know about this. Sony is suing Tencent over the Horizon Zero Dawn ripoff. Oh, that's right. It's called a Focus. Focus. But this is such a cool concept. Like, the idea of like this bubble surrounding you in some way, right? And like, that's so sick. This is like the level of like augmented reality that we're heading down towards. Okay, so like when you're looking in Horizon Zero Dawn, you're looking around and like visually you're able to see a lot of details surrounding you. But like, let's see if it shows something else. Doesn't.
The ability to download, providing evidence of the
Okay, so yeah, like this kind of stuff where like you'll see like visual lights appear in the distance and stuff. You'll be able to see holograms in this way.
obtained his focus and
You'll be able to like listen to audio files.
And that brings this chronicle to a...
So this is the kind of like level like AR is probably going to be advancing within the next couple of years. This is why I constantly keep on saying that like that VR, as advanced as VR may seem, it is probably not going to end up taking off within the next couple of years. The fact that you're forced to wear headsets to kind of like immerse yourself within the system is something that's going to throw people back quite a bit. It'll be like that scene in Back to the Future where like the kids are playing on the arcade and Marty comes in and he just like does the gunslinger thing and they're like, you gotta use your hands, that's a baby's toy. That's kind of what VR is gonna remind a lot of people the next couple of years, because AR is where a lot of the advancements are going to start taking off. So with this focus, like, okay, so this kind of stuff. Now, the thing about this is, even though like this bunker may look like it's in the distance, this bubble dome that's being created around its user is just manipulating the space to make it look like it's at a distance, right? It's using perspectives and optical illusion to make it look like it's farther, which is the cool thing about it, because in the video game, obviously in the video game, they're able to like play it as if they're able to place these things farther away, so it comes off looking like it's at a distance. But like if this kind of AR technology actually existed, you'd be confined to that like little bubble of like how far the light is able to travel before it's affected by other refractable light, which I find really, really interesting, because that probably plays into probably the eye, because like the focus, it's stationed right next to the ear in the game, so it visualizes next to you. So that's the cool part about it, and obviously gives out descriptions this way.
It's the best I can do. He's right behind you. Hi. Happy birthday, Isaac.
Another really, really cool really cool thing that they did for that's like kind of AI or like hollow is in Dead Space. Dead Space has a really, really cool kind of like AR visualization, particularly of their menu systems, the way you interact with so the rig menus and stuff like this. This is all done through the mask of the protagonist's helmet, which is the really, really, really cool, fascinating thing about it. But this is much more of a realistic take of like what AR could be in the future, though. You're just walking around, you're utilizing it for work, you're utilizing it for just basic necessity stuff. Like, if he were to walk around without a helmet, all this would just look like a slab of metal with like light coming out of it. That's about it. You would not be able to see any of this menu or anything like that, or interact with it in that way, which I think is like the really, really cool thing about.
Hey, first of all, let's give credit.
So yeah, and then like also in Dead Space, one of the cool things was when you log into the game. Let's see if it actually says this. If you're in game, yeah, there's no AFK. So you go into your menu. There. The hell? A random video. Okay. Dead Space main menu bug 100% recreatable. Yeah, so I don't think that they show anything here.
Hey, Isaac. Turn.
Oh god, that noise. It's so old school. The old Xbox sound, man.
They're here. It's happening.
This was such a phenomenal game, though. It was such a... I don't know. If you haven't played the remastering of this game, Dead Space was unbelievably great. Unbelievably great. I'm kind of sad the way that the third one came out, but overall, 1 and 2 have got to be one of my favorite horror games of all time. Especially on a first-time playthrough, if you've never seen that game, it is one of the best spine-chilling experiences of your life.
What do they call a dead zone? A dead zone. What happens? Does your brain shut off? How does that play out?
Well, I mean, that's something we're going to have to overcome. I mean, we're talking about the 2030s and 2040s, so...
So tell me about these nanobots that you're describing. If we broadly think of that as sort of nanotechnology, what is the anatomy of a nanobot in the service of your visions?
Well, it just goes into your neocortex, and it can actually pick up what each neocortex module is doing, and
Wow,
connect it to the cloud and get
that's crazy to
feedback
think
from the
about.
cloud. And it basically, I mean, it's just like your phone. It basically amplifies what you're doing in your brain.
You wait a minute. So you'll be able to tell me that while I'm playing Valorant, I have zero brain activity?
Yeah, but it's one thing to say that technology advances,
Officially head
and that's
empty.
a very different thing to say that our understanding of our own brain has advanced. I mean, that's going to happen much more slowly.
Yes, we can understand our brain, but it's very limited. Um, and ultimately, we want to expand our brain. I mean, we have a large head so that we can actually think a lot, but it's limited. And even if you're superior in one field, like Einstein was brilliant in physics, and he actually was interested in playing the violin, but he was no Jascha Heifetz. Jascha Heifetz was master at the violin. He was interested.
Oh my god, yes. Okay, one of these days for stream, we have to do a music stream. I I'm thinking of learning multiple instruments at once. So no, not playing them all at the same time. But like I do want to learn violin, piano, and I want to get back into guitar. I'm already familiar with guitar still. I just lack a little bit of the finger strength for fretting a little bit. But that's something I can work on very easily. My fingers are great. I used to do a lot of modeling with clay and stuff like that. So, um, other than that, piano I used to do a little bit back in the day. I wasn't any Mozart or anything like that, but I do want to learn scales. Uh, Very much so, and but violin for sure. I really, really, really want to start getting back into violin. I took it for like about a month or so, but I need to get back into it. I really, really do.
In physics, but he was no Einstein.
Okay.
We have a limited capacity in our brains. So ultimately, we'd like to amplify that and actually multiply it by 2, by 10, by 1,000, ultimately by 1,000,000.
But it requires you know enough about what your brain is doing to know what it is that you need to amplify it. And right now, it's electrochemical synaptic signals, right? I mean, that it's hard for us to really make sense of. I don't see that progressing at the rate that your machines are. I guess that's my point. So if the machine is going to help us, we got to know enough about the brain so that your nanobot can insert in the right place.
Well, I mean, I can show you this price performance of computation that just it started 80 years ago, and every year we have more and more of it.
Oh, by the way, I was honored for you to have shared with me the manuscript of your next book, for a book not coming out until 2023. And you had an audacious title for it. The singularity is nearer. Is he? What did you title it?
That's right. The singularity is nearer.
It's near. Okay, because it says near was the original. Now it's nearer. So right. You're all in on this. But I remember you had a fascinating set of charts in there. Tell me about this first one, which to me was the most mind blowing of them all.
Well, this shows the amount of computation you can get per dollar, and it increases every single year. And it looks like one person was in charge of this, but actually, this is just the progress that we've made in computation with nobody being in charge of it.
Price
Started with
performance
the
of
Zuse
computation.
1 in 1941. He was a German. He showed it to the Nazi government. They felt that computation was not important and did not support it. The second one was the Zuse 2. The third one was Colossus, which was done by Alan Turing in England. And they got very much behind that, including the United States. And they cracked the German Enigma code and enabled Britain to win that war, despite the fact that they were outnumbered. Gave us a launching pad for our D-Day invasion.
A fascinating film based on that story too. Yes.
So there's lots of different stories.
Wait, what was the film?
which was done by Alan Turing in England. And they got very much behind that, including the United States, and they cracked the German Enigma code.
Oh, that was that one movie with Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Oh, what was that? What was it called? Movie mathematician. Yes, the Imitation Game, right? This is the one. Newly created British intelligence agency MI6 recruits Cambridge mathematics alum Alan Turing. Yeah, that was a pretty good film. I forgot about that. That came out when I was working at the movie store back in like 2015 or 16. What year did this come out? 2014. Yeah, and then, yeah, because I remember a lot of people coming into that store to buy that movie. It turned out to be so good. But yeah. Go watch it if you haven't.
To win that war, despite the fact that they were outnumbered, gave us a launching pad for our D-Day invasion.
German Enigma code. That's crazy to think about,
too.
though.
Yes.
So there's lots of different stories at all of these points. But we started out at 0.000007 calculations per second per dollar. And the last one, we have 50,000 calculations per second per dollar. So it has grown exponentially.
This is what I talk about when I mention like the level of information gathering and passing that we've come to. Like globally, it's like a whole different number. Just in the United States, like the level of like news and information that's being passed around has increased so much. Globally, it spiked tremendously. Like we used to have to wait like 48 hours to like 24 hours to actually hear about something happening across the world back in like the 90s and early 2000s, right? Like natural disasters were like it would take a couple hours for that information to pass on to like halfway across the world sometimes. There was actually this giant like scientific research program or initiative that was done in like the late 80s, early 90s. That was what was it was called the Global Consciousness Network. I think it was like early 90s, late 90s, something like that, where they would do studies on natural disasters, and they would be studying on people across the world, and they would be analyzing their brain activity to see if there were any shifts during the time that natural disasters were occurring. And throughout their studies, and it was like a decades long studies where they did like tests on like multiple different subjects, but they were able to see that stress levels and brain activity changed whenever there were like massive catastrophes on the other side of the world. There were natural disasters, there were like huge incidences like massacres or bombings or huge events within the world that affected like the communities at large. People on the other side of the world would feel these things and they wouldn't understand why they were being affected in that way. And the Global Consciousness Network was theorizing that humans were very much connected. Even though they didn't have like any form of communication, they would still feel what people on the other side of the world were feeling in that given moment, which is the craziest thing to think about. It's what led a lot of people to theorize that we very much operate on the same levels of like mushrooms, where we have some kind of like interconnected consciousness in some way, whether that be through some external force, or whether it be through like the magnetic fields of the earth itself, since we do kind of like live in this like sea of air and magnetism that like it's utilized in some way for our consciousness as well, that we're connected all as one. Of course, that's all a theory and not necessarily anything that's been proven of yet.
Actually,
But it's the same theory.
It keeps going.
it was inspired heavily by the experiences of twins, or like people that are born around the same time, and how they share very close connections, to the point where like if you separate one of the twins from one another, if they share very close emotional bonds, if you injured one, the other would like sometimes feel it, and they could be like states away, or they could be like miles and miles away, and they would know something was up, and they would like call their twins and be like, "Oh, did something happen or something? Did you get into an accident?" It's very much in that level. That's what kind of inspired the global consciousness initiative.
People used to call this Moore's law, but I mean, there's 80 dots on this. Only 10 of them are Intel, so it's really not Moore's law. And people constantly come and say Moore's law has ended. I mean, I remember right before the pandemic, people saying, "Oh, Moore's law has ended," but that's not the case, and I never believed that, and it's continuing today. Uh, so this provides more and more computation for the same cost uh, each year.
But that doesn't mean we know our brain better. Why should it mean that? I mean, we are a moral enough civilization that we don't line people up and cut open their heads and do experiments on it, right?
Yet.
So a lot of what you're predicting is predicated on the machine-brain interface.
No, I mean, it's really capturing what each neocortex is doing, and we understand enough about that today, passing it on to the cloud, which will basically provide the same kind of things outside the brain. I mean, we're doing, for example, large language models, which is just in a computer, and you can actually talk to it, and it will actually talk back to you. And it's not just giving you samples of what humans have written; it's actually capturing understanding of language. So,
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. How is this going to affect anthropology in the long run with AI systems, right? If okay, so we've heard about like a lot of cultural a lot of cultures. When I was studying anthropology a couple of years ago, we were doing studies on the way that like languages have been disappearing over the years, and we were particularly doing studies on South America and parts of Europe, like the mountainous regions where a lot of kind of like secluded villages still reside, where languages are slowly dying out because the elders are finally like they're starting to kind of like die out little by little, and with them a lot of their cultures and languages are going with them. So a couple, like I think it was like 10 years ago or something like that, or 8 years ago, Google started to created this initiative to try and preserve as many languages as possible. They would go to like remote areas, or they would go to like indigenous places like Native American reserves, and talk to their elders to preserve languages, and even went so far as to include those languages into their computer languages as well. So there's a lot of like dead languages that now exist only because uh people are able to like utilize them on computers and stuff like that. Uh, but the interesting thing is when you start to introduce AI systems and stuff like that to a younger audience, to like, let's say if you give a personalized AI to a child, are they going to develop their own language with the AI systems? That is the crazy part about it, right? Like, what happens if like you will no longer be able to talk to your child because they learn from an AI and develop their own language instead of English or Spanish or Japanese, wherever they're like grown up in? But like we're probably gonna see this rise of like personalized languages with computers and AIs, like especially if they're growing up together. Like, are they gonna create like a language that's based off of like jarble or like gibberish, and like his language gonna evolve based off of like child speech in its younger infancies?
we understand a lot of about what humans are doing.
So maybe it's just additive to your brain rather than infused within your own synapses, right? If it's just an add-on, that works, perhaps.
That is the idea. It's basically to add to it. I mean, our computers already understand a lot about what we're doing, but we don't have a very good interface. So this is one way of interfacing it.
And so, okay, so this involves sort of nanobots, and I want to chat a little bit more about that after the break. But also, that the 900-pound gorilla in the room here is the day that the computing power equals or exceeds anything humans can do, not just how well you play the game of chess or the game of Go, but it can outperform us in everything we had previously held as distinctly human.
I mean, Turing created this test, the Turing test, in 1950, and we haven't managed to pass it yet. But in 1999, when I wrote The Age of Spiritual Machines, I predicted that we would pass the Turing test by 2029, so in 30 years. And Stanford was so alarmed at this, they created a worldwide conference, and people came from all over the world, AI experts. And we did the first poll, and people felt that, yes, we would pass the Turing test, which would mean that a computer could do everything that a human could do, but they said it would take 100 years. So the AI experts were saying 100 years. I was saying 30 years.
That's
There's
crazy.
been so much progress in AI recently. A year ago, they were saying 2042. I was still saying 2029. 3 months ago, they were saying 2030. So basically, they're agreeing with.
And now you're seeing thousands of people losing their jobs at Google being replaced by AI. That's how fucking wild this is. Google right now, I think, they're literally trying to get ahead of the curve because they know by 2029 this is going to be a very real reality. And it's sad. It's sad because a lot of people are going to end up losing their jobs, but this is the reality. A lot of people are very much afraid of falling behind in the market.
And you're quietly watching them one by one drop like flies, jumping into your boat. That's what you're watching here. That's hilarious.
So that's going to happen by the end of this decade, and AI experts now agree with me on this. And when we get to the 2030s, we will amplify our own brain by connecting to it. But the computer already understands everything that a human can do. And actually,
see, that's where I would argue he's wrong. I think AI does not actually know how a human's brain really, really, truly works. It lacks, because its entire reference system is so dependent on what we currently know. Until it's able to determine on its own things that we have yet to discover, I don't think it's gonna fully ever understand AI to that level. I don't think it's gonna understand, or AI is ever gonna understand the human brain in that capacity. I think it's very close. It's definitely very close. I think once they kind of like take all the restrictions and limitations off, and you put it off the rails a bit, it's very, very much likely it can come close to predicting human movement, human thinking, human patterns for sure. But it's never gonna be able to understand the human spontaneity. The fact that humans can change on a dime. The fact that humans are able to adapt to certain situations in very different ways. I think AI's it'll definitely plan, and it can predict a specific target pattern that humans are going to fall into. But I think what it will truly excel at is it's going to be able to predict multiple different things occurring and have a plan for every contingency. So even if humans do adapt and try to change their thinking, their way, the patterns, the AI is going to already have a contingency. It's going to have a plan on how to basically change its entire direction to fit whatever humans are going to try and change to.
It goes way beyond it. So, I mean, to pass a Turing test, it would actually have to dumb itself down, because if it showed its capability that goes way beyond what a human can do, people would know it's a machine.
That's funny.
Oh, so it's so good, it comes out the other side of the Turing test.
Right.
Wow. Right. It's not like it can't keep up with us. It's that it's so far ahead of us, no human can do
everything that computers have learned.
Just like me in high school.
It goes way past what a human can do.
I got C averages throughout the
Lisa
entire...
Dahl, who's the best human at Go in the world, said he's not going to play Go anymore because machines are so much better than him. There's really no point in him doing it. But
no, it's hilarious that the Turing test can be turned upside down, where you say, "Don't be too smart, because then they'll know you're a computer."
Yeah. Well, that's a major issue to passing a Turing test.
When we come back,
wow, that is crazy. He says that because it's actually true. AI systems have figured out a way to get past CAPTCHA security systems now. That's the insane part about it, right? So if like security systems can no longer detect on like if a computer is human or not human, it's essentially doing that, right? It's dumbing itself down in a way to pass the Turing test, to supersede these like security systems, the CAPTCHA locks. That's the crazy part about it.
Back, we'll continue my conversation with.
You're already seeing signs of it, kind of like passing the Turing test in this way.
We're back. Star Talk got a one-on-one special interview with futurist Ray Kurzweil. This might be our third time in conversation over the past 10 years. And this guy's he's true to his word. He makes a prediction about computing, about
how funny is it that the only reason AI was able to figure out how to get past CAPTCHA locks was because of scalpers? The only reason AI learned to pass these security systems was because scalpers wanted to get past security systems on raffles, and they wanted to enter into like the early pre-sales of items, because they were botting. They would bot the early pre-releases of like stuff like PlayStation 5s and Xboxes and Nintendos, and like stuff that would go on sale for pre-orders. They would bot them and try to buy as many as possible. The AI was able to overpass these CAPTCHA models only because they developed it specifically for that task. That's crazy to think about. It's crazy. Again, AI is improving not because of institutions, but because of the demand for certain things within the industries. It's so wild to think about. It's like, it reminds me of like hackers back in the 90s and what they thought hackers were going to be like, right? Like they thought corporations were going to be these big, greedy kind of like corporations, and like hackers were going to be like the guys like on the front lines creating and like doing like all the like innovative stuff.
Society, about our culture, and it's scary how on top of this man really is, and we've got him right here on this show. So Ray, in your book, the singularity is near.
I don't know why, but him wearing this brown t-shirt made me think he looks just like Dwight Schrute from The Office. Right? He totally looks like Dwight Schrute. It's not just me, right?
Coming out in 2023.
That is a cool ring,
you're
though.
Doubling down.
I like that
so
ring.
Much of your earlier predictions. You're saying, yep, maybe it's happening even sooner than I predicted.
No, it's happening on schedule, but
Those are cool
it's actually
suspenders.
less
What the hell?
alarming. When I
Just
wrote
noticed
this in
that.
2005, things we just assumed today are reality. People didn't assume that then. So the whole thing was very surprising in 2005. Today we assume that, and I mean, people are greatly amplified by the machines that we carry around.
Right. There was no smartphone in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody goes outside without it. I mean, if
True,
I
yeah.
actually leave and I notice I don't have my cell phone, it's like I've lost 3/4 of my brain.
You wanna know how successful the mobile market is doing right now? Keep an eye on mobile gaming. If you have not realized how much money mobile gaming is making right now, it's insane. It's insane. They're in the billion-dollar market. Now, it's a very competitive market because like there's like you obviously you're not gonna have like $100 billion corporations out there. You know, you're probably gonna have like maybe like the top 10 like mobile games are gonna be making in the billions kind of thing. But yeah, the mobile market is insanely profitable. People just haven't figured out how to capitalize on it quite yet. They just haven't been able to. Um, and I think the big reason is that like the pandemic is a good example, right? When everybody was like stuck indoors, um, I think a lot of people had more free time to do things. I think the bit like you saw the amount of people that purchased computers around that time and how big the numbers grew to. Now everybody's on the move. Everybody's outside. They're doing something one or another. And now you're seeing like the surge of like TikTok taking off again. TikTok blew so much after the pandemic because people moved more towards like short form content afterwards. So now you have like this generation that like is just consuming stuff at like rapid pace on like just 2 minute videos, like even less, like 1 minute videos kind of thing. So I don't know. It's so odd to think about, but yeah, I think the mobile market is really really big. I think the mobile market, but it's just finding a way to monetize off of it is very tough. Is very tough.
Got to go back and get it.
For some people, it's 90% of their brain if they've lost it. So, Ray, what is it with humans that we can't think exponentially about the world? And even if when presented with our own awareness even gets it wrong. In the manuscript you were kind enough to share with me of your upcoming book, there are all of these charts that it's almost makes you embarrassed to be human, that people think this way. One of them was on how much of the world people think live in poverty. Tell me about that one.
Well, there was actually a poll, 23,000 people in 24 countries, and they were asked over the last 20 years, what has happened with poverty
in the world?
And have more people become impoverished or less people? 70%.
So this is an ethical question, right? When you talk about poverty, you're talking about the level of how would I put this? In terms of poverty, are people's lives easier than they were decades ago, or are they easier now? We're not technically talking about money here, although money is a category. Money is a big factor in this. But poverty is talking about situations of like, if you go to a small village, if you go to rural America, like farmlands, do they have better drinking water than they did 10 years ago? Do they have better quality of food than they did have 10 years ago? Is their level of education better than it was 10 years ago? Those are factors that you have to play into poverty as well. Not just money, because money doesn't always necessarily mean that a community is gonna become better in many ways. Oftentimes what you see when certain communities get more money, you see a lot of the surrounding communities become more distressed. You see a lot more of the surrounding communities um, become more drug havens and drug dens for a lot of the people pushed out of those communities. They become very much the recluses. So it's like these communities become very successful, but they're surrounded by a lot of the failures that are pushed out. In LA, that happened quite a bit. LA, you see a lot of a lot of this area is becoming very much like the new New York. Everything's being segmented. You see a lot of areas becoming very, very expensive down to the millions. And you've seen a lot of people being pushed out to areas. Before, it was like Inglewood, it was like downtown LA. And now those places people have been pushed out even further. Now people are being pushed up into like Montebello, even further up towards like Riverside and stuff like that. And you're seeing like people getting pushed to like Bakersfield, and it used to be Sherman Oaks. Like Sherman Oaks used to be like a very much impoverished area. And now even like people over there have seen like a push, and like property has become even more expensive in those areas as well. You see a lot more of like the richer neighborhoods kind of like moving towards the seaside areas. And like all those people are getting pushed into like farmland Bakersfield and stuff like that. It's crazy. If My parents actually owned a couple of apartments in Bakersfield for a couple of years, and let me tell you, some parts of Bakersfield are very, very impoverished. Like crazy, crazy amount of crime, a lot of addiction and drug abuse happening in Bakersfield. I don't know if it's cleaned up within the years, uh, because we sold our apartments off like a couple of years ago to get apartments closer to LA. But yeah, like Bakersfield was like on a whole big different level. Like it's a huge place. Bakersfield is really, really big. So there's parts of Bakersfield that are really, really nice, but the impoverished areas are really bad, man. They're really bad. I mean, so is LA though. You go to Skid Row and like you see like the effects that like LA has on like its individuals. You go to the you go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and you see like a lot of the failed actors that are like living on the streets over there too. So yeah, nowhere is perfect. Nowhere is perfect. But of course, we're talking about different levels when it comes to poverty though. Like I used to go to Mexico when I was a kid like every summer. Um and the area that I used to go to, which was like Mazatlan and stuff like that, Sinaloa, it was all farm. It was dirt roads. Like there was hardly any kind of infrastructure over there. And as I grew older and older, I saw a lot of improvements within those areas. They built piers, they built cement roads, they built hospitals. They improved so much. So their level of poverty, even though they didn't have a lot of money still, still like very much Farmville, kind of like they were living off the land kind of stuff, they were still better off than they were like decades ago. And their level of education increased far more. The amount of doctors that came out of that city, like after like decades, like increased immensely. So again, we're talking about different levels when it comes to poverty.
Percent thought it had gotten worse. 88% thought it had gotten worse or stayed the same.
In fact, wow, that is a huge number. 70 thought it got worse, 88% it was the same.
In fact, it had fallen by 50%, and only 1% thought that was true. And people think that things are getting worse. And
declining poverty rates worldwide in absolute terms with U.S. poverty rates for comparison. So this is the U.S. alone. So percentage of population and then year. $1.90 a day? That's crazy.
People are not having children because
who is making only $2 a day? That is wild.
The world is getting worse. Well, in fact, it's getting better. I mean, I measure all these different.
See, but That is the lie. That is the lie they tell you, right? That is the lie they tell you. You might be getting paid more, but prices are going up. Prices are going. I went to the market yesterday and literally for a bundle of bananas, a bottle of OJ, and a little tiny tub of ice cream, $30 fucking. $30 fucking. God, I still can't believe the fucking price. Oh, I bought soju too. It was on sale though. The soju was only $10. The soju was only $10. It was 1/3 of it. Okay, so I would have walked out paying like $20, but still, bananas and OJ cost you $20 is insane. Is insane, man.
Attributes of how we
you
That's
measure.
like, God, when you think about that, you work a 9 to 5 all day, and all you can afford is orange juice and bananas. An entire day's work, and you barely have enough for entire weeks of like groceries.
You must have had 100 charts in this book. I mean, it was like what every next chart's like, damn, what? every chart I went through, it was like, so it's almost embarrassing, I have to say.
And things are getting better, but we tend to forget that. In fact, there's a common human attribute where we tend to remember positive things from the past. But we wouldn't want to go back even to 1900. Human life expectancy was 48.
Mm-hmm.
It was 30 in 1800.
Man, that's crazy to think about.
And we had very few.
Less than 100 years ago, our life expectancy has increased so much.
Things are getting better, but we forget that, and all we see in the news is the bad news. The bad news is true, but there's good news that we don't attribute, because the good news happens like every day.
The fact's hidden in plain sight that life is getting better for people. That bodes well for living forever, right?
But that also does not bode well for the people that are not prepared for it, right? If you do not have a retirement fund set up in your earlier years, like right now, that's one of the things that I'm worrying about at 30. If you're in your 20s and you're getting into this, like the workforce, and you're barely getting paid and stuff like that, think about setting up some kind of retirement plan in your earlier years. Start saving up now, because when you reach 70 or 80, like my parents right now are like, they're at the process of like retiring. Their bodies are starting to break down. They're not moving as well as they used to, but like they're like if they hadn't have prepared in their earlier years, I think they would have been in real big trouble. They luckily have a pretty decent plan, but I'm in my 30s, and I've worked a lot of like kind of like minimum wage jobs, and some of them afford kind of like a decent like retirement plan kind of thing, where like they'd save up they'd save a little bit of your paycheck every kind of month kind of thing. But in the long run, it's the job that I'm working right now only pays 4 hours a day. So I get paid kind of like a decent amount for those like 4 hours, but I'm limited to like 4 to 5 hours a day kind of thing. So you can imagine, like, since I don't work the typical 9 to 5 kind of like hours, my retirement plan is not going to be necessarily as good when I reach that 70-year mark. So that's one thing I'm worrying about in the long run. So I do kind of like want to kind of like put away some money for the future long term that way, or maybe like set up investments that like offer me, like, obviously buying property is a really, really good investment for a lot of people, especially right now, because there's so many improvements happening within these areas. Luckily, we have a couple of apartments in LA. I'm not going to say where because I don't want to dox them, but buying property is very, very important. It's very, very important. But it's very risky as well. You have to know what's happening within your cities. Obviously, talking to real estate agents is a very helpful tool. I think socializing is a very, very important tool when it comes to economy, because you're able to talk about you're able to talk to people that are in their leading fields within these industries and get insight as to like what's happening within the next couple of years. go to your bars, go to your local watering holes kind of thing. It's very, very important to meet people. Um, one of the best things that I used to do when I was like in my early 20s is I used to hang out at bars and just talk to like random people sometimes. Be very careful though. Be very careful on who you're meeting because it can be dangerous nowadays. Go in groups if you want. Go with somebody that you trust. But like talking to random people is very fun. I remember meeting a lot of real estate agents in LA, going to bars just randomly, and we used to talk about like just like they would talk about how they have like the high end like really successful real estate agents all have kind of like these groups of like people that they all interlock with, right? They all have like shares of the city and they kind of like dominate. It's almost like monopoly where like they don't invade on each other's turfs kind of in a way, and they do a lot of city planning. So their entire model is they kick out a lot of like the impoverished or like the people that they deem unqualified to live within these areas, and then they buy up all the properties. They sell the properties to the city, and then the city basically builds like huge stadiums on top of like the land that they sell them. One prime example of this is I remember talking to this guy who was saying within the next like 10 years, probably around like 2030, they were going to be buying out all the marshland by like the Marina del Rey, and they were going to be transforming it into like a whole huge stadium that they were going to be developing, and then connect that to like a metro line that was going to connect straight to downtown LA in some way. And then from there, they were going to try and run a metro down the entire length of the 405 network so that it could go all the way to like San Francisco. And I think they wanted to like make that like it was going to be like a San Diego to San Francisco line, and then if it were successful, they were going to stretch it out all the way to like Seattle. But that's what I heard. That's if it's possible or if it's actually going to end up happening is a whole separate situation. But like, think about that for a second. If they do end up creating a metro line that stretches across the West Coast in that way, all the property that's going to be lining that metro system is going to skyrocket within the next 10 years. Skyrocket. The question is, are you willing to wait those 10 years to sell that property again? That's a whole separate situation, because anything that's along that property line is going to have key advantage for movement. You know, you jump on a metro line and you're able to get to San Francisco, San Diego, and do it in a matter of days, right? It'll be like a bullet train almost. But that was their whole like initial plan. That's what I heard. I don't go based off of like maybe some people that are like super drunk, but like, you know, sometimes what you hear when people are drunk can be very, very interesting, you know?
In the middle of poverty and disaster and war, you're not going to want to live forever under those conditions. So
maybe not. I mean, that's a deeply philosophical issue.
Sure, but they feed into each other. The fact that things are getting better.
If you're not alive, you can't improve anything. You can't enjoy the world. I mean, if you have any joy in your life, you want to continue to live.
I get that, but I'm saying, but these two forces are resonant. The fact that everything is getting better statistically for more people than ever before, and we're developing the power to live forever. So, but that would have consequences, all right? Social, cultural, political consequences.
This reminds me of the anime Lazarus, right? Because in Lazarus, there's a doctor that creates a medicine that essentially alleviates all pain and sickness. And then it's discovered that in the long run, it kills anybody that takes the drug within like a certain amount of years. That anime is phenomenal, by the way. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. It's on HBO. But it's by the creator that did Cowboy Bebop. So the animation is phenomenal. The choreography on it is so well done.
All right.
It is a little slow, though. It is a little slow.
Supply chain of food,
but it's Cowboy Bebop story.
The resources of Earth to sustain such a population. So to extol the value or virtue of living forever but not see what challenges that would bring, that would be irresponsible.
If you had a linear mindset.
Okay, dig me out of this one.
Well, I mean, take renewable resources for energy. That's growing exponentially.
Oh,
and we'll actually be making more.
That is the topic right now. Renewable energy.
Like solar.
Oh.
I mean, you look at the graph, you can see where it's going. Same thing with food. I mean,
we've had this technology for years. We've had it for years. Nobody utilizes it though.
We're working on.
Everybody's got some kind of excuse why renewable energy can't work in some long run.
If you had the choice?
Long run, and it does not make any sense.
It
doesn't make any sense.
Live to tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm
okay. That's a low bar. That's a low bar, but okay, we'll give it to you. Let's give it to Ray.
One thing that I think they haven't put enough research into, like, I know it's dangerous. I know the inherent issues with a nuclear power plant is very, very dangerous. But the fact that we haven't developed a better form of like safety and protocol for nuclear power plants is actually kind of interesting, right? It's very, very interesting. One of the coolest documentaries you'll ever fucking watch. It's on Netflix too. What was it called? I think it was called like 3 Mile Island. Netflix. Yes, this show. I watched this right after watching Chernobyl on HBO. I was fascinated. I watched Chernobyl, and I went on like this deep dive on like nuclear energy and nuclear power plants because I just became so like I became so fascinated by what I was witnessing and like the amount of energy that can be produced by nuclear power plants. And then I saw this documentary about what happens when it's improperly managed. But this documentary is so amazing because the stuff that happened in Chernobyl was so close to happening in the United States in the like 80s. And this documentary talks about it so perfectly. And not a lot of people mention this in like history books in any way, but it's such a fascinating documentary.
Middletown, Pennsylvania is on edge tonight.
There was a mindset throughout the industry.
Pennsylvania.
Highways are backed up and telephones are jammed.
A major accident.
And the incredible part about this is that it's so well documented. Like, this documentary goes minute by minute on like the entire process of what happened to the employees that were working in this power plant, and it talks about every error that occurred. That's the most fascinating part about it.
Could never happen.
Critical questions remain to be answered.
And I believe that. But I was wrong.
It was the first step in a nuclear nightmare, a breakdown in an atomic power plant.
I heard a really loud noise coming from the plant.
Temperatures were soaring inside the reactor.
Oh, again, Mikhail Kaku's in this too. That's the fucking cool part about it. This documentary is so good. It's so good.
Radioactivity was getting into the control room.
They wanted to keep information from the general public.
It's a lot worse than what they're telling us.
They gotta cover up something.
Do you see any need to start to evacuate people out of that area?
No, we do not.
Oh my god. Oh my god. And not only that, the documentation of what these politicians did at this time where they try to cover up the entire incident, and they were just like, yep, nothing happened. It's not our fault. We don't know. And everything ended up getting released like right afterwards. Like the whole fucking lid got blown off this entire political fucking fiasco. It's crazy. It's crazy. They just try to sweep it under the rug.
Education.
And like if you saw on the map the level of damage this incident in Philadelphia would have caused, almost half the entire United States would have been annihilated. That's how fucking crazy. Like our entire farming infrastructure would have been destroyed. The entire steel belt would have been unlivable. Like it's insane to think about. Like it's insane to think like the level of destruction this could have caused.
That the accident was a massive cover-up.
They're either lying to us or they don't know what they're doing.
Certain days you could taste a metallic taste in your mouth.
We're talking about contamination of thousands of square miles of land.
The main driver here is still making money.
They would take every shortcut they possibly could.
Whistleblowers who come out of the nuclear industry, we always know that they are in danger.
Man, and this was all caused because they wanted to save money on and time on construction of the nuclear power plant. That's the crazy part. They used a cheaper cement that could not withstand the heat of the accident, and it ended up releasing more radiation like than was intended. That's, oh god, dude, this entire documentary is incredible though. It's incredible.
They would stop at nothing to silence him.
You don't threaten my family, I will kill for them.
Oh, that guy too? That was one of the most interesting characters in this documentary because he started off in the military. I think in his early years, he went into engineering and basically went into like nuclear research because it was very early in its conception. There weren't a lot of people that were learning nuclear energy at this time. So the government had this huge funding. Like they had this huge initiative where they would like pay for all your education if you went into this particular field, which was nuclear engineering. And you basically got this whole free ride. You do like the whole military program training, and then you'd be studying and doing nuclear engineering on the side, essentially. But it's an incredible story about like how while he was living in, I think he ended up moving from Philadelphia to like another location, but like he was one of the key employees that was working at that time at that facility, and like he had all this paperwork regarding what was going on, and like people actually went into his house to try and like steal information and shit like that. But it's crazy. It's like this documentary is so wild. It's like James 007 James Bond kind of shit, right? It's like stuff that you'd see from like supervillains.
Most people think the company didn't know what was going on. Nothing could be further from the truth.
The world needs to know what happened at 3 Mile Island.
Man, it's such a good documentary though. It's such a good documentary.
And I think tomorrow
it's scary to think about though.
To the next day, and people want to continue to live. People sometimes talk, oh, I want to live another 20 years, 40 years, whatever. But they definitely want to live to tomorrow. And in 40 years from now, they want to live to tomorrow. I mean, I had an aunt who was 98. She died recently, but I talked to her a couple months before she died. She was a very vibrant.
All right, I got to go
She
put some
has
clothes
said-
into the washer. Hold on, give me a second, you guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. All right.
She actually talked to her patients at 98. And I was actually talking to her about longevity escape velocity and explaining that. And she said, well, do we have it now? And I said, well, I think we'll have it by 2029. And she said, could you work on that to make it that a little faster? Because people want to continue to live.
She wants to see tomorrow.
And
okay, so here is the crazy thing. Okay, so people are constantly talking about how you can upload your mind into a computer, right? It's such a scary idea to me. As much as people think it's gonna be like an incredible experience, you know, like you're gonna be able to live forever. Like what people fail to realize is you're gonna be living alone in an encapsulated computer program, right? Because obviously you're not going to want people to like be able to have access to your brain in any way, right? You're not going to want like hackers to have like any way of like invading your program or like affecting your brain waves in that way because you want to like preserve longevity. What I think it's going to look like, you want to see what I think uploading your brain is going to look like in the future? This is what I think this is what uploading your brain to a computer is going to look like in the future, okay? It's going to look like the Head Museum from Futurama.
Saturday morning, damn it. Let's watch some cartoons.
This is what uploading your brain to a computer is going to look like.
You've got a surprising amount of algae in your beard, Mr. President. Just sit still. I'm heading out to my night job.
News. Hey, Fry.
This right here. This is what it's going to look like. No joke.
Sorry, guys. You know the rules.
I mean, obviously you're probably not going to have a physical head, but like
And I want loose women, the kind that aren't afraid to show a little ankle. Or elbow. No visitors. I'll lose my job.
Oh, boo-hoo. I'll lose my minimum wage job.
it's too real. It's too real.
We have nothing to fear but running out of beer.
Boo, you'll lose your minimum wage job. Shit. But yeah, okay, so obviously the partying is not gonna be happening, obviously. But the idea of like your head just being like sitting in a museum like this is what it's gonna be like when you upload your brain into a computer. Like you're gonna be just fucking sitting here, like with the only interaction really being yourself and maybe like the person next to you, kind of thing. That's the scary part about it. And obviously Nixon coming back. But yeah, no. I think the Head Museum is a perfect example of like what uploading your brain to a computer is going to look like, though. For sure.
People get some pleasure from life, and they want to continue to live, and they also want to continue to create, further technologies for tomorrow.
So this reminds me of the Frank Sinatra quote. It's been attributed to him, at least. Is that live every day like it's your last?
Shit, I got that song stuck in my head now.
One day that'll be true. that is your last day.
Yeah. Well, people have assumed that, and certainly that's been true. So we're actually going to be able to overcome that. But people want to continue unless they're under unbearable pain, either physically, emotionally, or spiritually, and then they don't want to go on.
Right.
But otherwise, people do want to go on.
And those are exceptions, clearly, and important exceptions, right? But they're exceptions. Correct.
Well, we're also working on alleviating these kinds of problems.
Before we go to break, let me just ask, there's a next generation that doesn't see a good world that we're leaving for them. They see the vagaries of climate change. They see regressive thinking on the social cultural front.
Right, but they're really not aware of what's happening. And I've had many debates with particularly younger people that have this view. They're not aware of how close we are, for example, to replacing everything with renewable energy, and many other of the graphs that I show. They're just not aware of it, and they think things are getting worse when they're actually getting better. And we could go through all these graphs, but it definitely shows that things are getting better, and people are unaware of it.
They've been deluded by the forces of media, by whatever else is not looking at those same graphs, because it sells news stories.
I mean, progress in this is not news. It's like every day we're making progress, and it's kind of the same story. But if you go over a certain amount of time, you see that we're making rapid progress.
Right. So one of them, you might have the number on the tip of your tongue. It was the percent by which poverty drops in the world each day. I thought that was a great number. Was it like 0.001% or
something like that?
Yeah, and it's like, and it's almost an ignorable amount until you take a step back and look at the sum over the years and over the decades.
Exactly. So that's not news. In fact, news is all negative because that's what gets attention. And a lot of the news, it's true. I mean, I'm not saying there's no bad news in the world, but that's all we're exposed to.
So what of our problems today might not be tractable by this sort of eternal Moore's law that's unfolding in front of us?
I'm not aware of something that we can't. That
Holy
we're not
shit, it's
making
getting hot in my
How about
room.
transportation?
Holy fuck.
You mentioned that in your book. The transportation, we planes today are going the same speed they went 50 years ago. We're not getting to Tokyo faster than we did in the jet.
For one thing, we don't really need to travel that much. I mean,
because technology creates a Zoom call, and you don't have to go.
Transportation.
Okay, so I'm there at the speed of light. Okay, that's
we're not.
Zoom calls won't.
We're not at the level of like transporting the physical body fast quite yet. I think we've gotten a little bit better. I mean, we still rely heavily on like planes and stuff like that. We do need to start building more bullet train infrastructure in the United States for sure. Maybe like a lot more like the whatever happened to that underground tunnel that like Elon Musk was working on. Like that was supposed to be like a huge thing, right? Where like cars were going to be driving like up to 300 miles an hour in the tunnel, and it would be like stretching across the whole United States. Whatever happened to that model? Honestly, I think the bullet train would be far more superior. Public transportation where everybody had access to it, way better. But yeah, like I don't know. I don't like the idea of like relying too heavily on planes, especially because like planes right now are like suffering so much. I think planes are suffering so much in terms of like engineering and just like regulation, how it's being managed and stuff like that. Flying up in the air is so fucking dangerous, man. I don't like. But I don't know. It's so odd to think about. But the level of information that travels is much quicker. You're able to do Zoom so much more. You're able to basically jump onto the internet and have any like communication with anybody around the world in an instant, which is fucking amazing. Like think about that in the like early 2000s and 90s, like like hardly anybody could connect to we had AIM. We had AOL. You got mail. Like emails weren't even like a big thing back then. I remember, oh my god, we had like Yahoo and Hotmail, Outlook. Like, oh god, you had to email people back then before AOL hit the fucking streets. That's the crazy part.
Just be a picture. We'll be able to actually embrace each other. I mean, I actually have 5 patents where you can use technology today where you can actually...
I will say this, though. the percentages of incidences on those kinds of things, like planes and stuff like that, is still much lower than like being in a car accident. Car accidents are far more likely still, even with all the stuff that's going on this year. So much more likely. That's the crazy part. So anybody that is afraid of planes, just know it's still a far safer percentage. Far safer.
With somebody and embrace them and feel like you're with them in three-dimensional space. So
Ray, I'm not having a computer hug me. I don't know what you're cooking up your sleeve there, but no, I'm not getting warm and cozy with arms sticking out of my lap.
Hold up now. I've seen some of the newer model of robots that are coming out of China, and shit. I don't know, maybe
so
just a little hug. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Be with somebody in a three-dimensional space, even if you're apart.
Okay, but you can't physically touch them.
But there's many different ways of doing that.
That's like a holographic thing, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, holograms are 3D.
Yeah. Okay. There was I think I saw a sci-fi movie where you saw the person who you needed it to be.
What do you think will be more successful in the long run? Do you think like holographic strip joints or like sex robots are going to take off first? Right? I think because like Cyberpunk kind of like raised that question up for me a little bit, because like at first I didn't even think about it, but like technology technology kind of like improves economically based off of like certain factors, right? I think what is it? There was a study a couple of years ago done where like they analyzed how technology kind of like moved within like certain circuits and how it got improved by certain ones. Like oftentimes you saw rapid tech booms if any of the technology was used within like a lot of like, if it utilized for like the sex sector, if it's utilized for like economy or like like money, moving money in any way, but like when they say sex sells, like that kind of stuff does actually like play into the factor. It's a huge industry, and like it's a way for a lot of like tech industries back in the day used to make a lot of their money by initially utilizing their like tech for that kind of stuff first, and then they would generate like huge funding and then utilize that to like kickstart their industries and companies.
But that person was played by another person who had approximately the same body shape and body type. But while that person got paid to play this role, but you interacting with that person saw and felt and communicated with the person who you intended it to be.
Yeah, I did actually see that movie. So that's, one approach. But there's many different ways in which we'll bring 3D to virtual reality and to Zoom calls.
And you made a very important point in your book. This singularity is nearer, something that I only mildly appreciated, but after reading it, I was all in the Ray camp.
He's all in.
It's that people have the urge to think of progress not only linearly, of course, but also progress in only one sector. Oh, the chips are getting faster by this amount each time, and that's what really matters. So let's track the chips.
You think Neil deGrasse Tyson
make a very
gambles?
Convincing case that it's a much broader phenomenon than that.
Right, that's a very good point. This graph that we talked about of the price performance of computation, it's not everything comes from that. That's just one example of how technology advances over time. Everything progresses that way, and you could point to different types of technology and how they progress every year.
And the people inventing the faster chips are not thinking that one day movie makers are going to fully exploit the power of computing.
See, this is a prime example of what I'm talking about, though. When it comes to like let's say like VR, augmented reality and stuff like that, not a lot of people paid attention to that tech until people realized like the whole sex situation with it. Like the boom that VR got when people started joking around like, oh, you can use VR to like, look at porn, and like you can use like ussies on that shit. Like that's when VR boomed. I don't know if you guys ever like track the history of like the technology and when that kind of stuff correlated. This is what I mean by like when they start incorporating sex into their technology or like their ideas, that you see like huge booms within their industries a lot because people just throw money at them.
To tell stories in movies. I'm sure that was not on anybody's thought in the 1960s when they were working hard on the IBM 360 or whatever else was coming online at the time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, before 1900, we didn't have movies at all. So. That's not that long ago.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to get all in on your feelings about AI, because that's a very controversial subject, as you know. And
Jesus, we
just
still have a whole
because most AI experts
30 more minutes to go. Holy shit.
If not them,
I might have to jump off after this video.
Movie ever made about
Holy
AI
shit.
Would scare the living daylights out of you, and you'd want to stop every act of AI.
It's all right. We'll play games later. Once I
get your candid views on
once
that
I do work and do my shit, then we can play some games later.
On Star Talk. We're back. Star Talk, a special one-on-one conversation I'm having with the one and only Ray Kurzweil, futurist extraordinaire. And he's not just somebody who sits home in his armchair and says, gee, I wonder, wouldn't it be cool if we had flying cars? No, Ray thinks about agencies. He thinks about industries. He thinks about innovation. He tracks what's been happening in the past, looks at those trend lines, applies his own ingenuity to it, his own creativity, and he's telling us what is in store.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually got into futurism because of my interest in being an inventor. So it wasn't just futurism to think about what the future will be like, but to really time my own inventions, because certain inventions don't make sense at particular periods of time. And so I use futurism to tell when we should actually be doing certain things.
Excellent. Plus, I admire the fact that you slap dates on when you think things will happen, and that's bold. That's some, as they say, that you got gonads if you're going to start, because there's nothing more embarrassing than a wrong prediction that people make, even if it doesn't land in a time period. Right? It's just certain things that never came true that people either dreamt up or wished would be true. But so let's get into this AI thing. My personal view here is computers and machines, think of them as one force operating on civilization. It wasn't the end of the world when we had machines replace oxen or otherwise human labor on a farm, right? I mean, it was just we had tractors. Now that does it. And
right. I mean, we had 80%. In 1800, 80% of the workforce worked on producing food. So basically, if you were working, you were producing food, at least 80%. Today, that's 2%. So that
we're producing more food on less land with fewer people than ever before.
Yeah, 80% to 2%.
Yeah, in fact, you can go your whole life, particularly if you grew up in a city, and never even meet a farmer. Right, and I think that of our founding fathers, how many of them were farmers? There's like half or something. There's some interesting.
No, they were all farmers.
All farmers.
This was farmer revolution. The American Revolution was a revolution of farmers, and yet people found other jobs.
So we survive an era where our physical labor and that of our pack animals is replaced by machines. And it wasn't the end of civilization. And yes, people found other jobs, other industries rose up, in spite of whatever fears they might have had at the time.
I mean, if I were a Prussian futurist in 1900, I would say that all of your jobs are going away. And people go, oh my God, how are we going to make money? And I'd say, well, you're going to become an IT engineer and do quantum physics. And no one would have any idea what I'm even talking about. So,
but they wouldn't even but beyond that, they wouldn't even
I remember
allow
when
you to
IT
say,
engineers were
instead of being
first getting announced.
instead of being
Like
a
they
blacksmith
tried
for
to
horses,
recruit me for that
you'll
when I
fix
was younger
engines on cars.
in like high school.
They probably could not imagine.
I was so dead set
an
on becoming an
industry
animator.
that rose up
They
surrounding
couldn't
cars.
imagine any of the jobs.
It's wild to think about, man. Like since I was like in middle school, I always wanted to do anime and animation. I studied it so long. I even tried learning Japanese in case I ever like wanted to like move to Japan to work for studios. And then like as I got older, I just started realizing more and more of the industry. I started realizing like how tough it was really to like get into this business in that way, and how much of a disadvantage I was when it came to like anime in general. I think now it's a lot easier than it was back then. In like the early 2000s, it was so difficult for a foreigner to like get big in that industry. But like now it's so much more welcoming. Like I think the Japanese anime market has opened up so much globally, to not only American audiences but like just like worldwide audiences. It's actually kind of incredible. You see a lot of like indie animation studios popping up from China, a lot from France, a lot of parts of Europe. Uh, you see a lot of American animation studios popping up too. Uh, Maybe not to like the level of extent of like anime style. I think here in America we have like a different traditional style of like animation that's much different, which is it's still good because like I feel like they kind of like inspire one another to have like those animations styles. American animation of like old school WB stretch and squash, the Disney animation style. It inspired heavily a lot of like animation in Japan. Like, it's particularly one of the biggest ones that, in the recent decade that popped up was One Piece and the reveal of Gear 5 Luffy. Like, and its heavy inspirations of like old school stretch and squash animation was incredible. So like you have like studios like Titmouse that are still doing a lot of like that old school traditional animation style, which I fucking love. And I hope it still remains because there's a lot of studios that are suffering right now. A lot of American animation studios are closing down. You're seeing a lot of like the doling down of like traditional 2D animation from back in the day because like now AI systems are coming out, and a lot of animators are losing their job, and a lot of studios are now looking at this new AI format to basically fire their entire workload and just hire a bunch of prompt scripters that are just going to enter in words into like an AI system and just have an entire generated animation, which I think is like the most disgusting thing in the world. And I'm glad that a lot of award shows have excluded AI animation or anything that utilizes AI to that level of extent. I'm glad that they're not going to be allowed at any award shows in that way for the future. So I don't know. We'll see if like they end up affecting their monetization in the long run as well. But who knows at this point? Who really knows what the future holds for AI?
It came, but we actually have a higher fraction of people working today than we did before. It's actually been increasing, and the amount of money you've made in constant dollars has greatly advanced. That's another graph I have here.
Wow, that is insane. 2024 U.S. personal income per capita. That is crazy. 60,000. I don't think I've made 60,000 in my entire lifetime.
It has
Shit.
gone up substantially.
Oh God.
Here's a graph you haven't put together. How many 20-something millionaire YouTubers there are? people with their entire income.
This is a whole
what they do
separate
on YouTube, which was a platform that didn't even exist 15 years ago, whenever it came into.
So that's just a good example of the kinds of new jobs that we have. And as intelligence increases, we're going to be doing more and more intelligent things. We're going to become much smarter in the future.
Right, but let's be for real. The intelligent ones are not going to be the ones getting these jobs. It's going to be the entertaining people, right? It's gonna be like a very select form of entertainment, right? The people that you see getting the most success are oftentimes the most drama filled people that know how to retain audiences. You know, they know how to keep people's eyes on things. Smart
And
people
we
are
would not
not
want
really
to
going
go
to be at the
back
forefront
to,
of this.
primitive past of today.
The idiot days of the 2022. But Ray,
I think smart people will
AI
definitely be
starts
running in the
taking
shadows, you know?
all the
They'll be in the
jobs, not
background
just the
for
old
sure.
jobs, but any new job that people can come up with, AI is going to do it. Doesn't that, we have to now think geopolitically about the impact of this?
Right. So there's two ways of looking at this. There's humans and there's AIs. And the AIs are going to go way past what humans can do. And so what are humans going to be able to do? But that's really not the way I look at it. We create technology to advance ourselves. I mean, the technology is not some alien.
I wish that were true. I really wish that like we were in the tech boom of like the early 2000s and like late 90s, because that was very much true. Tech was very much improved for it was used for self-improvement. Like there were specific niches, right? That like, oh, we need better calculators. Oh, well, here's a calculator on your phone. Here's something that you can, make a call on. You have your answering machine all in one place. You can access the internet. You can have your music on. Like, technology was utilized for self-improvement. Now it's solely built off of like monetization. The tech industry is all about how do I make money, as much money off of my fucking my base.
Invasion from Mars. I mean, we created to overcome.
There's a lack of self-improvement when it comes to technology nowadays.
Problems with our organs, we have problems with everything, and we come up with technology that moves us past it. And we bring this into ourselves. So that's why I'm talking about advancing our own brains and capabilities with technology in the future. So we're going to bring the AI into ourselves, and we're going to become smarter, and we're going to be able to do our jobs because it's going to be us and AI together.
Not AI as a separate disembodied force that, as every movie has decided, that the AI will judge that we are a scourge on the earth.
AI is not coming from Mars. I mean, we're creating it to overcome problems that we have.
Yeah, but this fear of it achieving consciousness.
I mean, AI undermines everything we do. I mean, every single financial.
I love it. I love AI. Don't get me wrong here, but I'm saying, what happens if the fear factor? I guess is a singularity of its own. Perhaps is if AI quote achieves consciousness and makes decisions all by itself.
Well, let's get back to consciousness in a moment, but I mean, this has been an issue ever since the Luddite occurred in the 1800s. They saw machines are being built, and more machines are being built, and every week they're announcing some new machines, and employment's going to be won't exist. But in fact, employment went up, not down, and continues today to go up and not down. That's because we use the technology to make ourselves more capable.
So interesting. I remember I read a lot of history. I enjoy looking at how people used to think about their own time. One of them was, at the rate machines are replacing human work, one day we will only need a 3-day work week. And what enchanted me by that is
they've been saying this for decades.
The work people were doing in that day.
They've been saying this for so long. 3-day workday.
And so
it's never happening.
Now
it's never happening. The 3-day workday is never happening. They're gonna try. They will say, "Oh yeah, you could take the 3-day workday if you want, but if you want to work those extra 2 days, go for it. We'll pay you." And people are gonna fucking take it. That's the thing. 3-day workday. It's a fantasy. I don't think anybody will ever fucking do 3-day workdays.
There's less total work to do in the world without anyone thinking that maybe you're freed up to think of other things, invent new projects, new ideas, new
Well,
challenges.
that's exactly the case, and particularly when we increase our own intelligence, we're going to think of all kinds of things we can't even imagine today.
That's the funny part. We're gonna get a 3-day weekend, and you know what humans are gonna end up doing? Almost every single person's just gonna get a second job to work those other 3 days. That's what's gonna end up happening. You're gonna have a 3-day weekday or work day, 3-day work week, and then like you're just gonna have another 3-day work week right after it. That's because people just they need kind of structure. They need something to do. They need schedules. Like I think when you place people, unless you're some kind of like high functioning superhuman that just knows how to spend every second of your day, um, yeah, having that many days off, 4 days off, is so detrimental to your health. So detrimental.
So when you say intelligence, could you be more specific about that? Because, or in fact, before we even get there, could you remind us what the parts of the brain are doing for us? And because we hear joke about the reptilian brain or the and what part of the brain makes us rather than some other apes. Could you just spend a moment telling us about that?
Well, there are parts of the brain that control our breathing and so on that are not that important. Unless
you want to breathe. You mean they're not important for intelligence? Yeah.
But the cerebellum is where we do our ability to put different things together. And so you have lots of different constraints, and our cerebellum can solve some of those problems. We've greatly amplified that with our machines, which can actually go beyond what a normal human brain can do. And ultimately, we'll connect our cerebellum to the cloud, which basically will just expand it beyond what our brain can do. I mean, the reason we have such a large head is to accommodate a certain amount of cerebellum. Now, there's actually one other thing that we need, because there are other animals that have a brain that are as big as us or even larger, like an elephant or a whale actually have a larger brain.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a thumb. I mean, this thing is actually very key.
Well, they have an opposable thumb. They have thumb bones, right?
At some point, we have to start asking the question, like, does the size of the brain matter so much as to like the number of neurons that are actually activated per second or per minute, maybe, right? Because that's a proper statistic or measurement of like how intelligent the species is, right? It's not necessarily how big the brain is, it's how quickly the neurons are firing, and like you're able to like actually consciously think of like a specific thing in the moment, right? I don't know. There's got to be a better definition for it.
Because they're mammals, but right.
They don't have an opposable thumb.
Right.
So I can think and look at a tree and go, wow, I could take that branch and strip off the leaves and create a tool. They can't do that. They might imagine it, but they don't have an opposable thumb to create that. So our whole technology was enabled by our opposable thumb.
Okay, but then, so are you suggesting, that's an important point, AI, we think of it as a computer-based phenomenon, but can AI create a sculpture? You know, I do that with my hands.
I was just wondering about this too the other day, because like I was thinking about like animation and how AI was going to be like utilized for creating works and stuff like that, and like how people are entering prompts for entire episodes and stuff. So the concept is that like AI will utilize like a library of like already existing materials to basically mesh together and create art based off of that, right? But has anybody ever like actually questioned artificial intelligence on like if it can create like something that isn't already existent? You know, can it create a simple line utilizing an art tool? Can it create uh, something that it doesn't necessarily have in its banks of information or tool to access? That's a question that I'd love to find out, because this is what I'm talking about. Can it sculpt something that isn't necessarily already in existence?
AI do that. You have to create a robot that jumps out of the machine and to do that, right?
Well, since we have ability to create technology, we can create.
And that's actually not true. You can hook up an AI system to a 3D printer, which is kind of very similar. You're not necessarily sculpting out of clay, but it's sculpting utilizing the printer.
Robots, and the robots have an opposable thumb.
Okay. 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 So, getting back to that point, isn't there a day where there is nothing left for humans to do? And then there's a world where AI does everything better than we can. And so how do we, is that the end of the economy?
That would be the end of us if we can't expand who we are. But if we can actually put AI into ourselves, which we've already done with things like cell phones and so on, but if we can actually amplify our ability to think, then we become the AI, and we can compete with ourselves because we are the AI, and that's why we created AI, is to expand our ability to think.
You said this the last time we were in conversation, and I've never forgotten it, and I've repeated it 100 times. So I want people to hear it from you firsthand. Your rebuttal to the comment, the first AI, only rich people are going to have it, and then they're going to take over the world, and there'll be more of the have-nots.
It's true, though, man. It's true.
And this is going to create an imbalanced world.
Right. So if you go back 20 years, you had to be actually pretty wealthy to have one of these new cell phones that came out.
Even TV systems.
Because they were very expensive, and only wealthy people could afford them. And they didn't do very much. So
even cell phones
now,
back in the day, cell phones were like the size of a brick, and some of them even required having like a backpack to like connect to. Like you literally had to like carry your cell phone server on your back. But yeah, the only people that could afford that kind of stuff, even pagers was another jump in technology. The only people that could afford stuff like pagers were like lawyers or like people that made a shit ton of money at that time.
Fantastic amount.
Shit, I should be a lawyer.
Very inexpensive.
Now that I think about it, fuck.
So you can only afford these technologies.
I could probably pass the bar exam pretty easily.
At a point,
I think I'd get bored of it though. That's the thing. I'd get so bored of that job.
Once it gets to be perfected, everybody can afford them, and literally everybody has these smartphones.
There's 6 billion. That's 6 billion. I looked. It's 6 billion in the world out of 8 billion people. That's crazy. It's a crazy number.
I checked on this like 9 months ago. It's 4 billion, but so now it's 6 billion out of 8 billion people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I walk down and I see homeless people take out their cell phone.
It's so true.
Their smartphone.
It's so true.
So you can only afford these things if you
think about that. A couple of years ago, homeless people did not have
once
cell
they
phones.
Really perfected.
It wasn't until the pandemic that it became like readily available by everybody.
All of these technologies, you don't have to be wealthy. I mean,
just
wealthy only
necessary
allows you access to a point where.
And I think the major reason for this is because people know, they're like specifically the work industries do not take physical applications anymore. You can't walk into like a Starbucks or like a clothing store like PacSun's or anything like that anymore and just like fill out an application. Now the first thing they tell you is like, oh yeah, go to our online store, go to careers, and then go fill out the application online. Everything's done online now. To not have a cell phone is like to be completely isolated from the rest of the world. That's the crazy part about it.
Where it doesn't really affect anything.
But that presumes that we continue to advance exponentially over that time.
Yes, but that is the reality.
And do you never see that ending?
No. I mean, it's going to keep going.
And what are you basing that on? part of it sounds like wishful thinking. I mean, I'm with you, but I'm just being devil's advocate here. Who is to say it should go on forever? The Roman Empire, they surely thought they were a forever thing. Hitler was ready to be the third dynasty. He was ready to last at least as long as the Greeks and the Romans, and his dynasty lasted 10 years. So where's your, is it just I'm queuing off of the past and projecting into the future, or do you have actually knowledge of what will happen in the future that will
Well, I mean, if you
empower
look
this?
at the price performance of computation, it's gone on. There's actually some periods prior to this,
I like his
before we had
ring.
computation, that continues its graph into the past.
It's a sigil ring.
And it's continued. And people are saying, well, I'm not sure it's going to continue. Moore's law is ended. Every 5 years, people say Moore's law has ended. Moore's law is not a good name for this graph because only 10 of the 80 points have to do with tell, but it's continued, and we plan things that go beyond our current limitations because we need to overcome them.
But I've read papers that said you can't make the circuits any smaller because you run into quantum effects of adjacent.
That's not true. I mean, if you look at nanotechnology, for example, there's an analysis. If you created the ultimate computer, and it describes exactly how that would work, in a 1 liter size, it would be billions of times greater than today's computers. In fact, it would be greater than all the computation of all humans put together. So we can go way beyond what's where we are. It will reach a limit. I mean, you're right. There is a limit, but the limit's far beyond where we are today, and we can actually create a small computer that would be greater than all human beings together, and we can prove that as a reality.
So I hate to insult you by bringing this up, but just to take us out, we have to solicit your comment on whether we're all living in a simulation.
Simulation.
Sorry to take you there, but you're dancing in the pond where people talk about this. So take us out with what you think is going on with us.
It's such an interesting topic, right? The simulation talk. It's hard not to think. I get why people think we're in a simulation, because the fact that like so many things can be broken down mathematically and predicted so accurately using mathematics is so crazy. The way that like things occur that we don't quite understand, the same way that like computational phenomena can occur as well. Where like for binary code, one of like the biggest like phenomena that occur in there is like you have ones and zeros, right? You either have trues or false, but something that like is extraordinary. I can't remember if it's in like quantum physics or in like some kind of like physics. I forget exactly which one, but there's an occurrence. I think it might be in like advanced calculus or theoretical mathematics or something along those lines. But at some point, there's some like random occurrences of twos popping up in binary code, and they don't have any explanation as to like why it occurs, because binary code is supposed to be just consistent of ones and zeros. But if you leave it to its own devices, every once in a while you get this random occurrence of a 2, which no one properly has an understanding about, which is an incredible thing when you think about it. This is computers we're talking about. Computers that operate off binary, which is either true or false, and even instances of phenomena happen within those systems, which is incredible.
I mean, if you look at how physics works, it works by formula, and the world is kind of a computer, and so anything that happens in it is kind of a simulation of reality. The idea of us working in a simulation is some high school students in some other world create something.
Basement aliens, basement juvenile aliens programming us. Yes,
and they create something that simulates our world, and we're living in that world. But it's still reality, whether that happens or not. And you'd want to actually encourage those high school students not to shut down their simulation.
Okay, so the reason why a lot of people consider like the simulation theory so like valid is because when you start to take a look at like the different dimensions of reality, and like they start to talk about how like a third dimension, which is our third dimension, would view like a 2D dimension or 1D dimension, um it is very similar to like how we view a computer screen, right? When you see like a video game or a character on a computer screen or a television screen, it's exactly the same way that they'd kind of like explain a third dimensional creature looking at a one dimensional creature, on a flat surface. Or like when you draw a stick figure on like a piece of paper, that is a third dimensional creature, like observing a one-dimensional creature. Now, when you start to get to the higher echelons of like the dimensions, like you go into fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and ninth dimension, and you think about like a creature from those dimensions looking down at a third dimensional creature, it starts to like translate more into like a simulation theory where like rather than them seeing us as like a piece of paper, rather they're seeing us like a computer simulation, like The Sims, or in that manner.
So the way to do that is to be interesting. And I think having a singularity would be very interesting. So they'd want to watch that.
Very good. Good answer. Good answer. Okay. So we want to keep our simulator overlords entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Ray, I think that's all the time we have. First, it was a delight to chat with you again.
I mean, that's not even the real question that they should be asking. Instead of like, if we live in a simulation, what they should really be asking is if the events of the universe can be influenced by outside forces, right? I'm not talking about like God or anything along those lines, but like, can everything that surrounds us, our world, our universe, our galaxy, can it be heavily influenced by outside forces that are not of our own accord? Is a whole separate situation. Rather than like living in a simulation, we're living in a simulatedly influenced universe.
So you're still
like,
at it.
The reason why life has occurred on Earth is because it's been kind of like, they've essentially allowed it to happen for so long. And at any point they can say, well, we don't allow this to happen anymore.
And you've got this new book coming out in 2023. Yeah. I'll look forward to that, the final print version of it. I feel privileged to have seen an early manuscript of it.
With all the squabbles that happen around the world, man.
An early manuscript.
When you really take a look at the universe in perspective, like it seems so small.
Clearly the case.
It seems so small.
All the evidence you bring to bear on that. So, thank you, Ray.
Great to talk to you.
All right. You have been watching and possibly listening to Star Talk. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, your personal astrophysicist. Keep looking up.
Man, what a great Star Talk, man. That was incredible. That was actually really, really fun to watch. Thank you again to Saint who provided that in the chat. You were awesome. Oh, it was really fun to watch. All right, you guys, it is 11:50. I have to start taking off. I got to do a little bit of work for a couple hours. And then I'm probably going to hit up the gym later in the afternoon. I'll be back later for some video games. Maybe I'll go get a haircut or something because, like, fuck, man, my hair is getting way too unruly. But I'll be back, I promise. I hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon, morning, wherever you are at. And I hope you guys are staying safe and well out there. I will see you guys soon, okay? So take care of yourselves. Eat a good breakfast, lunch, or dinner wherever you're at. All right? And I'll see you guys all soon. And as always, don't stay a stranger. Bye. Mwah. Later, dorks.